That's all right, I'll get my comeuppance. All right, I don't see anything.
Somebody else on the phone too, or just
I don't see anything on the moratorium. The only reason I'm mentioning,
If we all could rise for the pledge, please. Alex, could you lead us in the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We could have a moment of silence for the men and women in the armed forces, our first responders, our veterans, those fighting the good fight in Ukraine, and those that are being affected by the military crisis in the Middle East. Thank you. I'd like to call this public hearing to order. And first part of business, I'd like to read the warning. Please take note that pursuant to sections 405, 406 of the Town Charter, the Milford Town Council will hold a public hearing to hear the public comment relating to the following proposed ordinance. Let me get the right one out here. Thank you, Katie. Authorizing the use of automated traffic enforcement safety devices. This public hearing is to get public input on proposing of an ordinance to be added to the New Milford Code of Ordinances authorizing the use of automated traffic enforcement safety devices, abbreviation ATESD. Said public hearing is to be held in the E. Paul Martin Room at New Milford Town Hall, 10 Main Street, 6:15 p.m. on February 26, 2024. In the event that the attendance exceeds the lawful limits determined by the New Milford Fire Marshal, the Town Council reserves the right to recess and relocate the public hearing from the E. Paul Martin Room to another location in order to accommodate attendees. A copy of the proposed ordinance is on file in the Town Clerk's office and available for examination. Dated New Milford, this 21st day, February 2024. And before we take public input, Sal, first and foremost, this meeting is just to take information and input from our public. There will be no vote on this tonight. There'll be no vote at Town Council tonight. This is just to get an input from you, the public, on your thoughts on these new technologies and devices. Sal, do we have the first person up, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Sanella.
Mike Sinello, 111 Willow Springs. Very briefly, as this is a public hearing and the chair has a lot more discretion than at a town council meeting, this is going to take me 10 minutes, so there are some folks that are signed up after me that may request to defer their time back to me to finish this up. Okay, so first things first, let's speak towards the constitutionality of the ordinance. And on that ground, I agree with our town attorney who said on the video record, quote, "I don't think it's constitutional," and who gave repeated caution that this ordinance may not pass constitutional muster. He's the town attorney, so of course he has a duty to speak somewhat delicately around certain subjects so as not to expose a pathway to successful litigation while also representing the best interests of his clients, in this case, the town and its council. I don't share these competing interests, so allow me to spell out the case. I'll start by saying I wish I had more time than I've had over the past few weeks to do research on this subject. Lord knows, you all know, that if anyone does his homework on these type of meetings on these sort of subjects, it's me. So let me start by saying I wish I could have really dug deep into why, when California first rolled this type of program out in the very early 2000s, and when that program mirrored the normal process of issuing speeding tickets that police officers and state troopers in Connecticut have executed for nearly a century, and not the current program being discussed tonight, that program, once instituted in California, from what I understand, had to be withdrawn after repeated successful lawsuits on constitutional grounds. California's ATESD ordinances now look a lot more like what's being discussed today, and if I might speculate, my guess would be that the current system in place in California is designed to circumvent clear Fourth Amendment concerns about the camera's installation in the first place. The camera being installed is already performing a search in the same manner as a cop who has already pulled you over, the difference being that the act of the cop pulling you over is warranted because there is probable cause. He can point to the specific violation he believes he is witnessing and can point to the person he believes committed the violation. Who is the person and what violation did he or she commit when the camera was installed? If a cop pulls you over for no reason at all and sees a bag of cocaine, let's say, in your front seat, he cannot proceed to process that violation because he had no probable cause to perform that search in the first place. This necessary due process is completely circumvented with this installation, and it's to no one's surprise that mimicking the process that already exists for cops issuing citation for the exact same violation of the law at the exact same time and place wound up with a successful constitutional claim against it, and why this process was installed in California's case in its stead, which is to say nothing of the details of the process itself, which I have put up on the screen, and I've highlighted the section on acceptable defenses. We'll come back to that in a moment, which are for whatever reason completely different from the process any cop would have to go through in order to issue the exact same citation at the exact same time and place, which is to say, if a cop pulls you over for doing exactly the same thing that the camera is identifying, then there's a completely different process that goes along with that. We all know how it goes. In a normal citation, you mail in your ticket, you check off not guilty, you get a date, you meet a court date, you meet with an assistant district attorney, and he or she might offer you a plea bargain or to withdraw the charges right then and there. And if you don't like that deal, you go before a judge and begin your trial. That proverbial and literal day in court and all of the procedural rules and regulations that govern these proceedings are there for your protection. This ordinance circumvents all of that and creates a system where the only pathway to a day before a court of law is through the appellate process, which I'm sure if you were here, your town attorney can confirm means you will not be able to have the court rule based on the facts of the case because of nearly 1,000 years of English common law, which precludes retrying the facts of the case at an appellate court. This seems to me to be a clear violation of the 6th and 7th Amendments, which guarantee a trial by jury in both criminal and civil cases. Appeals hearings are not trials, and they are, for all intents and purposes, by law, never ruled by jury. So you'll never be able to tell a court of law, I wasn't even there, which isn't even among the allowed defenses in this ordinance. I have them highlighted. As to the but are not limited to proviso before the listing of acceptable defenses, if he was here, I would suggest asking the town attorney about the concept of the exception that proves the rule. And to sum it up very quickly, why would they need to list these defenses, which are already acceptable defenses in a court of law? Question I wish my attorney was here to go into great detail on. The fact that you cannot even defend yourself on the grounds that you didn't commit the infraction is a complete upheaval of nearly 1,000 years of English common law and a total bastardization of both due process and so little as the notion of there being a differentiation between guilt and innocence.
Yeah, 15 minutes, 50 seconds, sure.
Okay, I'll wrap up this sentence and then I would imagine this is the source of the serious constitutional reservations of our town attorney implied when he last spoke on the issue. He's not here today.
Is he here?
He's not here yet.
Mr. D. Gregory.
Can I defer the remaining balance of my time to Mike Sinello?
Of course.
Okay. To continue. Thank you, Joe. I'm also sure our chief of police, Chief Cerruto, can, because he already has, tell you about the problems with license plate theft as of late. Catalytic converter thieves have moved away from using a stolen getaway car with its original plates and towards stealing plates off of cars targeted for their similarity to the original stolen car because it makes it harder for them to be tracked. If they drive past a speed camera in excess of the preset limit of the camera, whoever last had those plates registered to them will get a ticket, and that wasn't me in that car, that wasn't my car, and I reported those stolen plates 3 years ago, and here's all the documentation to prove it, isn't an acceptable defense, and you'll have to just pay the fine. For anyone else who thinks that scenario is completely ridiculous, so did our founding fathers. And I can't believe they wouldn't find penalizing someone for a crime they objectively didn't commit a cruel or unusual punishment as protected in the Eighth Amendment. Clear violations of at least four, in my opinion, clear violations of at least four constitutionally protected rights, and that's to say nothing about the effectiveness of speed cameras, even if they were constitutional. The data is absolutely not out on this one, as the research is not clear one way if they even actually improve safety, as no study has been conducted to perform a qualitative analysis of accidents. And virtually all research isn't about actual outcomes like accidents, but on the speeding itself. Yes, the mean or average speed seems to decrease, but there isn't any research on who is slowing down, as the raw data collected has never been released, though most researchers seem to agree that all that's happening is that people doing just more than the speed limit are doing just a few miles an hour less, and the people who have no regard for the speed limits have no regard for the speed limits and will continue to do 104 in a 40. I'm also sure Chief Cerruto can tell you that the people doing 50 in a 40 on Route 7, in the section of Route 7 in question, are not the safety issue, as by rule, by his own admission, the Milford Police Department do not pull over anyone for 10 miles per hour or less over the speed limit, and as is implied by the state statutes that do not allow for the issuance of tickets with these exact speed cameras in question for those doing 10 miles per hour or less over the speed limit. And yes, the burden of proof is on the positive claim, which would be that they do increase safety. Though I'll also point out 0 of these studies have looked into the effects the cameras have on other roads, which drivers may defer to in order to avoid those cameras or the reduced overall mean driving speeds. That means if you can't provide evidence that they do increase safety, the hypothesis that necessarily must be adopted is the null hypothesis, which is at least that they don't. All of this, of course, is irrelevant to the constitutional question. We are in the halls of government. The whole of the foundation of our entire system of governance at every level lives and dies on the consent of the governed. This is why the constitutional question isn't just important, it's an absolute imperative imposed by said Constitution and is a strict limitation on the powers of government. And for the record, we the governed have already answered the question of wherein our consent lies on this subject. $503 votes on this poll. I had to dig up this old screenshot because from what I can tell, this post was taken down, but I can tell you the poll continued and the sample size increased. Still, 503 votes is between a third and a half of the total turnout we'll likely get at May's budget referendum, and this is a Facebook post. More than 2 to 1 against. Very few people are as involved and tuned into local politics as I am, and as you are aware, so you're not, and I'm sure you are aware of that too, so you're not likely to ever get 503 people to show up to a public hearing in the post-Sempra era. So allow me to bring them into the room by other means. There they are. This body is governed by our Constitution, and its legitimacy only comes with our consent. On this subject, and when it comes to this ordinance, you kind of have neither. And the evidence is here before your eyes and ears to see and hear. This doesn't have to be partisan, but it will cost those who vote against it votes. Lots of them. Please do the only right thing on this subject. Yeah.
I'm Tom Kapsiak. I live at 94 Long Mountain Road. Just a quick comment that I raised earlier today in an email to the mayor and to the chief of police and to the town attorney. The ordinance directs most of its language toward the owners of vehicles. And the assumption is that the owners of vehicles would be the subject of a notice of violation. So my question to the 3 people earlier today was how we would go about enforcing a notice of violation in the event that a vehicle is owned by a leasing company or a corporation. Apparently that's not adequately covered in the existing ordinance. It may or may not be covered by the enabling legislation, but not being an attorney, I will leave it to the people who are more knowledgeable, but I think it's an appropriate modification to the proposed ordinance to at least consider so that we ensure that the application of the ordinance is equitable, covering not only the owners of vehicles, but the operators of vehicles who may, for other reasons, not be the owner. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Rom?
Hi, Hillary Ram, 154 Guernsey Lane. I think most of it has been said, so that's great. I just will add, sort of one of my concerns was about sort of the more minute details, and maybe in your discussion tonight, you guys will talk about it, and then we'll hear. But some of it is about how, how will the police, I think what happens is the video, officers have to review the video. Once, somebody's been pinged as speeding, then it has to be reviewed. So there's a fair amount of time. I don't know how much time that is, or what, what the cost of that will be. And the main concern there is any type of damaging influence on the incredible relationship between, residents and our police department. So, does it seem like a fair process that an officer has to push through a lot of these videos because they're 100 in one day? And, is there a certain amount of time that each video gets for review? I don't know the process, so maybe we can talk about the process more. And I think that my main drive here is that the road, I think the problem is this camera, or these cameras, will make us feel like we're doing something, and I think the essence of the unsafe situation on Route 7, I've said it before, is the design of the road, and we're gonna keep trying to push it away in different things, but the design of that road, and the last study showed that the 85th percentile speed on that road is 65 miles an hour. So the 85th percentile means the speed that people feel safe driving on that road, because it was designed for speed, it was designed for flow through, and that's what we have. So I feel like with the cameras up, it's gonna feel like we're doing something, sort of like the extra cops on there. But even with all the more stops, you said in 2024, we were up 22% with stops, but accidents are up 19%. And there are more and more people that are going to be living around there. We have a development with 107 units. People might be walking around, biking around more. So we really have to think about this road. What do we want Route 7 to be? And I feel like the cameras are a distraction and potentially a negative for the police force based on how they're going to manage it. Who's in charge of making sure that they're working every single day, because they've got to be fine-tuned. So the management of it, the cost of the daily operations of it, and let's let other people do it first and see. I think that this town, I'm against it. Thank you.
Mark Morabito?
Hi, Mark Morabito, 34 East Street. Well, I was looking over the ordinance, and I have no problem with red light cameras or anything like that. I think that's fine. I don't see any big issues on that personally. But what I did have a question about was the motivation of specifically like a red light camera, because from my knowledge, and I could be wrong, it seems like these accidents, the two that I'm aware of that resulted in fatalities near Italiamia and the one in front of the school, didn't happen quite exactly near intersections, more like between them. And so if this was targeting mainly red light cameras, I would be wondering what the purpose was behind that versus something like an automated like checkpoint with displayed speeds and cameras. I haven't seen those in the US. I've only seen those in like Britain and stuff like that. I don't know if that's one of the proposed solutions here, but that's just something I wanted to bring up.
Tonight, right now, is just a public hearing where we just get input, but then at the town council meeting, you hear the council discuss the cameras.
I don't have
Sal?
anybody more, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
I would like to.
absolutely. Yep.
My name is Tom Burke. Okay. My name is Tom Verba. I live on 3 Round Table Road. I agree with pretty much everything Michael Sanello said. He was very eloquent, and he went through a lot more points than I would have gone through. The two things that I'll, I guess, focus on a little bit is the fact that back in the 70s, there was a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. But highways were designed for a much faster speed than 55 miles an hour. Now, I'm not saying that, we should allow speeding on this road. What I am saying is that this road was designed for high speeds. It doesn't know if it's a highway or if it's a regular road. And that is my perspective on this, is that is probably a large part of the reason why there's so many people, unfortunately, getting hit on Route 7. And so the way to get around that, again, there's no immediate necessarily solution to that, but the way to get around that is maybe to have a crosswalk, maybe to have a couple more lights put up so that people slow down. But the road is designed for speed. People drive at the speed that they are comfortable with. And if they see something that looks sort of like a highway, they're going to drive relatively fast sometimes if they're not thinking about it. My other comment would be, as far as like red light cameras, over the years, on a number of occasions, I've been caught in the middle of intersections and had to go through a red light because I had a pedestrian that walked in front of me, or because the traffic all of a sudden gets backed up and the car in front of me doesn't want to move. And if I could have easily gotten a ticket with a camera trap saying that I went through a red light, when actually I was doing the right thing by not trying to drive quicker through and maybe hit a car or hit a pedestrian while being caught in the middle of an intersection. So, yeah, I guess those would be my two main points. The road is designed for speed. So how do we design it so that people slow down, without creating tickets where, people are going to have more mistrust of the police? Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Cheryl Hill, 46 Aspetuck Pines Drive. I'd like to first say that I wish I had more time to do research and some due diligence. So my comments are based on kind of some background knowledge and very precursory look at things. Overall, the things that are my concern, a lot of them really default to the primary concern, which is those that Mike Solano brought up in that first public comment, which is the constitutionality. So we could get into details of who owns the car, who's driving the car, a number of different things, but I think the main focus is the constitutionality. It's not clear to me on the last page of this ordinance or the draft. It says this ordinance shall take effect on the 21st day after publication. I would just like to clarify that this is a draft for consideration, public comment, and there's been no vote
Correct.
or approval to this
no
point.
votes
Okay.
taken.
Now I did, as far as the constitutionality, and I think that this is a slippery slope. Maybe some of these things appear to be benign and we can justify their use. But when I looked up some of the vendors that have been used in Connecticut already, they are using facial recognition. They're using automatic tolls in suburban areas. And like I said, this is a slippery slope. Maybe this is the benign first step, but I only see this expanding, that there would be increased surveillance, increased use of artificial intelligence and technology, increased infractions or chipping away at our personal rights and our privacy, And I feel very strongly that once we go down that road, it's very hard to pull back and to reclaim those rights, reclaim that privacy, and some of the risks and potential damage done. So I just, I know you're taking this seriously, and I appreciate that. I think this opens up a lot of potential for serious risk, very serious, in those regards. And again, I just refer back to the first public comment, Mike Soleno, the constitutionality. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bill Manconi, 17 Carriage Drive, New Milford. Been listening to everything that everybody pretty much said here, and for the most part, I kind of agree with everyone. But I do also have mixed feelings in terms of, where if we were going to have the cameras, where would they be? And I've been living in the town for, I guess, maybe 30 years, and I think we all know, the biggest areas where we see problems. Near Willow Springs, near Stop and Shop, near Walmart, near Aldi. And I think some people, brought up the point on how the roads were designed and that they really weren't designed properly in terms of, maybe that thought process. So I think it really matters in terms of where these cameras, if we had these cameras, are going to be located. Are they going to be located from Cumberland Farms to the connector? Or are they going to be located, if you had them, from Cumberland Farms to the bridge? Are they going to be near McDonald's, close by where an officer was killed a number of years ago? I'm sure most of you know how dangerous it is in the area where the congestion is. So I don't necessarily know if it's a camera that needs to be done. Some people suggested additional lights and such, but I know if I'm in Aldi and I try to make a right, it's kind of dangerous, but if I try to make a left, it's really dangerous. I know I go to Club 24, some of you probably go there as well. If you come out of Club 24 and you make a right, it's dangerous, but if you come out of Club 24 and you try to make a left, boy, I've tried to do that lately and I'm crossing my fingers. So again, that doesn't necessarily mean that we need one of those cameras, but we do need something to be done based on the road. So, and then last but not least, let me just throw this out there, and I think everybody here pretty much agrees. Is Connecticut's car insurance cheap? I guess not. So the point is at the end of the day, I don't think anybody wants their car insurance to go up, whether it's from a red light, speeding, whatever it may be. So I think some of it is the problem with the roads itself, like a lot of people brought out. But I'm sure most people don't, it's a tough situation now with the economy the way it is. And I think most people don't want to have an additional, insurance go up or an additional ticket. And I think it's easy to say, well, just slow down or be careful going through that red light, like one of the guys was saying, what happens if I'm in the middle? But you're going to feel a little different if you get one of those tickets from the camera. So I have mixed feelings about it at the end of the day. I just think that if we were going to do it, I think we need to be selective in terms of where they go. I think we really need to see the reasoning why we're going to have those things, what are the purposes. And last but not least, are they going to be traffic cameras? Are they going to be red light cameras? Are they going to be speed cameras? If they're just for, looking over to see who caused an accident, granted, that could lead to something else in the future, but I don't see a major issue with that. But again, the red light cameras and the speed cameras, I could tell you one person one group of people that would definitely be in favor of it. Geico, okay? And all the other insurance companies, because they're going to get more money when your insurance goes up. So again, I have mixed feelings about it, but I think we need to take all that in consideration.
Thank you.
I don't have any more.
Okay. Anybody else?
Can I take 2 minutes since I deferred my time to Mike?
Absolutely, Joe, come on up. Just got to sign,
Sign it again?
yep. Oh, you already signed it? Okay. There we go.
Good evening, Joseph DiGregorio, 18 Cobbler Lane, New Milford, Connecticut. Just real quick, since pretty much my sentiment has been expressed pretty vigorously at this meeting. I don't really agree with putting any sort of monitoring device anywhere in the public because you never know what you're going to monitor. But that doesn't really offer you much of an alternative, and that's why I wanted to reclaim a little bit of my time. Red light cameras, in most of the studies that I've read, do not actually stop people from necessarily causing accidents any more effectively than extending the length of the red light at the intersection. If you have a four-way, all-way stop for a period of time, the incidence of collisions at intersections drops precipitously, right? If you couple that with extended yellow lights at the intersection so that people have a little bit more time to get through the light, they don't rush to get through the light and end up speeding through a red light at an excessively high speed, right? Which also reduces the incidence of fatalities at those same intersections, right? I don't know why that wasn't proposed as an alternative. It's a very simple thing to do. You reprogram your lights and you save people's lives. This should be done everywhere all the time. It seems like a no-brainer sort of solution to the issue, right? The other thing is, since we brought up Route 7, most of the collisions that I've seen and read about and heard of in the 12 or 15 years I've been living in town are almost all associated with either people crossing where there's no crosswalk or making a left-hand turn across a double yellow line. Whether that's going into the liquor store or Aldi's or Club 24, doesn't really matter. You're making a left hand across a highway, right? Which is really what Route 7 is at this point. That's a dangerous thing to do. Another no-brainer, easy thing to do, don't allow left-hand turns. If you don't allow left-hand turns and people have to go down the road and turn around and come back, they're gonna be making a right. A lot less accidents making a right into the parking lot from the side of the road that you're on than trying to cross across, 2 or 3 lanes of traffic headed in the other direction. It's my 2 cents. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Joe. Sal, anybody else? We got anybody else that'd like to address the public hearing? Going once, going twice. Like to entertain them, well, anybody from the council want to say anything? Okay, like to make a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Town council's at 7 o'clock.
Somehow missed that part. Doug is here. Tom
Doug.
was. He must have taken a break.
Taking a break? 7 o'clock, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Nice to hear you, Doug.
You can all rise for the pledge, please. Sal, can you lead us in the pledge, sir?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have a moment of silence for the men and women in the armed forces, our first responders, our veterans, those fighting the good fight in the Ukraine, and those suffering from the military conflict in the Middle East. Thank you.
Shall we read the...
Can we read the American Creed? Katie?
This is America's Creed by William Tyler Page. I believe in the United States of America as a government of the people,
By the people, for the people, whose just powers are derived from the consent of the governed, a democracy and a republic, a sovereign nation of many sovereign states, a perfect union, one and inseparable, established upon those principles of freedom, equality, justice, and humanity for which American patriots sacrificed their lives and fortunes. I therefore believe it is my duty to my country to love it, to support its Constitution, to obey its laws, to respect its flag, and to defend it against all enemies. Thank you. Okay, Sal?
Tom, are you on the phone?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Baker?
Hello, my name is Joe Baker. I live at 14 Maplewood Drive here in town. I've got a few topics, but I want to start out by mentioning the great job I think Laura Reagan's doing in zoning, because a lot of my topics are going to go about zoning, and I don't want anyone to think in any way, shape, or form that I'm saying that the staff and Laura don't do a great job down at zoning. But one of the big issues we have is enforcement of zoning. It's been acknowledged here at Town Council on a couple of occasions that we have, at best, a meager resources to move forward on any enforcement as far as zoning goes. What ends up happening is the law-abiding citizens are put at a disadvantage. They try to follow the zoning codes, and in many occasions, in many aspects, what happens is the people that don't follow the zoning codes have an advantage. They put on signage that they shouldn't, so they get an advantage in a business sense. They put in apartments where they shouldn't be putting apartments, so they get an advantage for having incomes that they shouldn't. In many ways, shapes, and forms, the town is at a disadvantage. I've had discussions, and we've discussed at zoning the possibility of limiting zoning permits to people who don't have any outstanding permits that they're in violation of. This is an important issue because many times the only enforcement capability that we have is to hold back a permit for somebody who's come in front of us and says, look, I want to do something else, and they already have a violation that they have not addressed. Another topic is town planner. I personally believe we are in great need of a town planner, and I think that's evidenced by, if you pull up our GIS map and you put on the zoning layer, you'll see a patchwork quilt of all kinds of a mesh of zones next to each other that don't belong, and it's really driven by, not by our plans, not by the government's plans, not by your plans, Mayor, or the town council's plans, but by what a developer wants to do, which is fine if that's the plan. If the plan is, hey, we want the town to develop as a developer would like it to, that, you might consider that a plan as well. But to have a professional town planner with all the base questions answered, like right now we have a development that many people are talking about. There seems to be two camps, people that want development and people that don't want development. Well, what's the town plan? Does the town have a plan for that? We have a POCD. It's not really followed. We have a housing plan. It's not really followed. The town really needs a town planner. One other issue that's going to come up later tonight is the zoning training. And I'd like to mention how important I think the zoning training is. The state put in an ordinance that required people who go on a zoning commission to get some training, because basically, the only requirement to be on a zoning commission is that you get elected. You don't have to have any education, you don't have to have any knowledge of land use. Personally, I lived in Chicago for a while, and I sat in on classes of land use at the University of Chicago. As soon as I got on the zoning commission, I realized how little I knew. I thought I knew something. I don't know much at all. I've been on the zoning commission for 4 years, and I've learned a lot, but I've taken the trainings that were available, and I learned even more. And the one thing you'll hear from anybody who's even gotten a doctorate is the one thing that they do learn after 8 years of postgraduate training is they realize how much they don't know. And that's the important point here as far as the zoning training goes. With it, even as much experience as you can get, there's always more things to learn, and that's only to the benefit of our town, that we have well-trained land use commissioners. The only other thing as far as zoning goes, I'm going to mention the ZBA. The Zoning Board of Appeals is here, as the state statute calls out,
You got 15 seconds left.
is to help support the zoning. Our ZBA helps support violations of zoning. I mean, it's just, it's a long topic, and I'll hold it over for another meeting. Thank you very much.
Good evening, I'm Tom Kepsiak. I live at 94 Long Mountain Road. I've got two quick comments to make. One has to do with the minutes that you folks are going to be asked to approve this evening. In the minutes, there's a mischaracterization of the defect with the roof at the high school, the roof replacement at the high school. The issue that was raised by Fuss and O'Neill is the spacing of the clips that are used to secure the panels to the roof, and the number of screws that are used in each clip to secure the clip to the roof. So I just needed to make that point so that the entry in the minutes could be adjusted as needed. The second comment has to do with the conversation later this evening with regards to the building, the Municipal Building Committee's ordinance. I've sent to the mayor, to the town attorney, and to the director of public works my suggestions for revision, which are fairly detailed. I won't go into them this evening. It would take much too long. I'll just make the offer that if the town council decides that the ordinance is worthy of revision, I'd be happy to participate in that conversation if my participation is of interest. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. I'm Darrell Kurland. I live at 12 Old Mill Road, near neighbor of Mr. Gambino. Mr. Mayor, members of the Town Council, and guests, on behalf of the volunteers on the New Milford Community Emergency Response Team, I wish to thank you for your consistently strong support of our team and its activities in support of town events, as well as its ability to help with emergency incidents. We appreciate the opportunity to participate at such events as the Memorial Day Parade, the July 4th fireworks, the Midsummer New Milford Road Race, the 9/11 ceremony, trunk or treat, and other activities. And although we hope such things do not happen with any frequency, we are ready to help at emergencies, such as we have done at the high school roof fire, vaccine clinics, and weather-related town disruptions such as flooding, power outages, extreme cold, or heat. As head of the CERT outreach team, I have already spoken with a number of you to foster and build on existing relationships and publicize ourselves. The recent Community Engagement Day at the New Milford Library was an excellent opportunity for us. We can provide a short presentation to help people learn about the CERT, and we have a variety of emergency preparedness materials available for distribution. People can visit the New Milford CERT website, newmilfordcert.org, to get more information and to contact us. The website has a wonderful resources and tips section that contains a wealth of emergency preparedness information on a variety of topics. Our meetings are open to the public. We are a dedicated and enthusiastic small group and would love to increase our membership. Our next CERT Basic Training class is scheduled to begin Monday evening, April 29th. We have flyers announcing this free training and have started to place the flyers at community bulletin boards throughout the town. We ask your support in helping to publicize the New Milford CERT and to encourage townspeople to view our website, newmilfordcert.org, and consider signing up for the training and becoming part of the team. Once again, on behalf of the New Milford CERT, I thank you for your service to the town and for your support of our team.
I don't have any anymore, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Katie, I'd like to ask the council if we could, before we get into the consent agenda, if we could move up the youth agency, as we have the student advisory board here tonight, if they could present, if it's okay with everybody, if we could have them present prior to going into the rest of our agenda.
Do you want me to suspend the rules?
Yes.
Yes, well, I'd like to move to suspend the rules, to move the youth agency report, item number 6, up to be item 3A prior to item 4.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Great, if you could bring everybody up.
Hello, I'm Brianna Jemison here on behalf of the Youth Agency Student Advisory Board. Student Advisory Board members have shown interest in hosting a multicultural fair. We have it scheduled for June 1st at John Pettibone Community Center with June 2nd as our rain day. It will be held from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. on the fields outside of JPPC. We also have a rough draft of the flyer created by one of our Student Advisory Board members, David. As a group, we have discussed the theme of universal languages, including art, food, dance, and music. So far, we have 10 students representing these aspects of countries. These countries are Jamaica, Italy, Vietnam, Slovakia, the Czech Republic, Brazil, Ecuador, Spain, Poland, and France. We are also interested in working with various cultural organizations such as the Institute of American Indian Studies and the Refugee Resettlement Program.
Hello, I'm Michael Carafa. Each table will represent a different country. There will be cultural food samples, displays, crafts, activities, music, and dance. Pat Hembrook gave us an amazing idea of a passport. All attendees and families will receive a passport as they walk into the event. As they visit each table, they will receive a stamp. At the end of their travel journey, they will fill out a raffle ticket for a chance to win a prize. The Student Advisory Board is hoping that local businesses will consider a donation to be used in the raffle. We will be reaching out to businesses in the next couple of months.
We also have a student multicultural committee that will be holding meetings weekly at New Milford High School in preparation for the fair. We will be completing logistical tasks such as reaching out to contacts, brainstorming ideas, and other things. After that, we will bring our preparations to our student advisory board meetings, where we report to our advisor, Maria Leo. This event is being run by the students on the Student Advisory Board, but it is open to the public, so we do encourage you to come out, bring your families, and learn about the cultures we have in our town. We are open to any ideas that you may have, and we hope to see you there. Are there any questions from anyone?
This is outstanding.
Sounds great.
This is great that you guys are putting on this. It's outstanding to show the cultures that we have here,
Yeah.
diversity that we have here. I'm proud of you guys.
Very cool.
Outstanding work.
And you have all those countries, so you'll have all those people, tables, somebody there to talk. Got to bone up on my Slavic, I guess. Thanks, it's
you.
great.
Can I have your comments? Are they one
Great.
sheet or?
Yes.
Thank you.
Isn't that cool?
Thank you very much.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
I would like to suspend the rules to move an item up, and it would be item 11E, the discussion of the state mandated training for zoning board and commission, and I'd like to move that up to 8B.
Second.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so, back to the agenda. Item 4, I'd like to move that we approve item 4A and B, prior minutes and tax collector.
Second.
Any discussion? Alex?
I would like to make an amendment, an adjustment to the comments about the high school roof to include a bit more information, as Mr. Kapsiak suggested, simply because it's not a simple
It's submitted?
yes or no, and there's more to it than one clip or two clips. There's more involved, and I feel there should be a little bit more information, factual
I think
information.
what we can do at the next meeting, Alex, is have town attorney, have Jack, our DPW, we'll put it on the agenda,
Okay.
and we'll have a more robust conversation on it.
Okay, because we want the facts.
But
and-
you don't want to
and-
change the minutes, because
No,
the
I
minutes
just-
are what the minutes
Absolutely.
were. So you're saying add to that?
Well,
Okay.
somehow, don't leave those minutes as that's the problem. Because
Well, the minutes
there's
have to
more
stay
to
as the
it.
minutes. That's the record of the meeting.
It says, the contract calls for 2 screws and clips, and some of the roof was only secured
Right.
with 1 clip and a screw.
I knew there was an error, but that's the minutes. I mean, we can't change that, but we can have it added, as Mayor said, right?
Just
So-
making sure that even as part of this discussion, there's more to it. It's not a simple,
Absolutely.
But Randy, the minutes have to stay the
The
minutes.
minutes stay the same, but you can memorialize what we're
Right,
talking about now.
exactly.
Right.
The
Yeah,
fact that the minutes are what they are, but
And
there's a
Stephanie-
factual discrepancy.
right, and Stephanie would be
And
doing
that's
that
already,
right
that'll
now.
be in this minute.
okay,
Yeah.
that's all I want.
So it'll
That's
be
all I
there.
want.
Okay, good. Okay, so we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Like to move to approve item 4C and D. C being the youth agency who's requesting permission to accept $750 from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services, SAMHSA. It's a stipend to support the youth agency's participation in the 2024 Communities Talk to Prevent Alcohol and Other Drug Misuse Initiative. The awarded money will be deposited into an existing grant projects account as the youth agency has received this funding previously. That account would be 430-500-49506, 42022 revenue, 430-500-59902, 42022 expense miscellaneous. And item B, or it should be D, 4D, the New Milford Police Department is requesting permission to accept a check donation from the United Way in the amount of $800 to be used for the cadet program. Thank
Any
you, Paul.
discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Thank you.
Item 5, Mayor?
Thank you, Katie. First of all, congratulations to the New Milford Green Wave Dancers. They placed second in large jazz and state competition. They also were first place overall, high score in hip hop, second place for jazz, Judges Award for most character, and winner of Dad's Dance Off at the NFA Wildcat Dance Off. Congratulations to the Color Guard as they placed first place in their competition. Also, I mean, there's a lot of congratulations up to high school.
You know.
Congratulations to the gymnastics team. Reagan Williams finished second in states in the all-around. In the vault, Haviland Brown finished first. Reagan Williams tied for third. On the balance beam, Reagan Williams finished second. Floor exercise, Reagan Williams finished fifth. And the team in total finished sixth in the state, so congratulations to the gymnastics team. The ladies varsity basketball team, another back-to-back SWC championship.
Amazing.
Congratulations to New Milford High School alumni Haley Best. She is a gymnast at Temple, and they actually had a meet on ESPN Plus on Friday. The varsity basketball player we've talked about at the last council meeting, Elena Felez. She is now the all-time leading scorer for boys and girls basketball at the high school. Also, you know, we talked about at the last meeting how Elena was in the 1,000 points club. Well, Jade Wallace now is a second member of the 1,000 point from the New Milford basketball team. So 2 this year.
Very good.
Pretty amazing. I want to thank New Milford Fire Marshal Kevin Reynolds and staff, the New Milford Police Department, and the Northville Junior Firefighter, Kaylee Thurfelder, as they did a presentation on fire safety and danger of TikTok trends at Scotticoke, which we all know is very important. Also want to thank the Cub Scouts, as on President's Day, we actually met here in this room to learn about local government, the Constitution, and more. They had some great questions. I want to talk a little bit about Eversource had come in and let me know they're going to begin their tree trimming regiment for the spring and summer. They're going to be doing a total of 116.86 miles this year of tree trimming, and we'll be putting up on the website kind of the map of what they're going to be doing. I spoke with Chief Ceruto earlier today, and we talked a little bit about continued vigilance on traffic and traffic enforcement. Chief, could you talk a little bit about traffic and traffic enforcement?
Thank you, Chair. We continue to address a pressing concern in our community. Traffic safety obviously is in the fore, and our officers are doing an excellent job each and every day. They're working hard, and there's a lot of work out there for them. Our officers have made over 500 stops so far this year. When we keep this pace going, we're going to have 3,000 stops by the end of the year. So the officers are doing good work, and we hope in the end that it does show a reduction in the seriousness of accidents. Obviously, we want to focus on reducing the amount of accidents with injuries. And this enforcement is just one part of what we're doing. We also educate operators. Half of the stops are issued warnings. So we give infractions or misdemeanor summons in 50% of our stops, and we give warnings, written warnings or verbal warnings in the other half. So we do still want to be fair to our community. We want to enforce these laws in a constitutional manner, and we want to give people an opportunity to improve. So education's a big part of it. Of course, as we hear, engineering's another big part of it, but I also want to make a strong point that personal responsibility is a big part of traffic safety. The operator in the vehicle is the one who chooses to push the pedal. The operator in the vehicle is the one who decides to make the phone call or make the text message or go through the red light or stop sign. So I just want to hearken on that point, that personal responsibility really could lend to an improvement in traffic safety in our community.
Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you, Mr.
Appreciate it very much. Moving forward to some of our infrastructure, we're working with our Municipal Roads Committee to finalize the roads that will be done this year, both mill and pave. We're also going to be doing some fog sealing, some chip sealing. once they're approved by, finalized with the Municipal Building Committee, and Jack and the Public Works team will be bringing those into the town council, as we do every year, with an update on what we're doing. And Jack, if you could talk a little bit about the Marial Road Bridge, because we're getting prepared to replace this bridge. That's going to be one we're doing this year. Jack?
Yep. The Marial Bridge, we went out to bid, and we have a contractor, Dayton Construction. The contract is prepared and just ready for final signature. It has been designed. We have all the approvals except for one in place, and it's for the long-eared bats. And so we're talking to a person tomorrow who's coming in. I have asked the Army Corps of Engineer for some flexibility. They are going to talk to me tomorrow about that, and so we're hoping that tomorrow we'll work out that final detail. We've got in place our temporary easements so we can start removing the trees. You'll start seeing the trees removed. Once that's taken place, you'll start to see the utilities being moved. Eversource has been out along with the cable company. They'll be out to move the utilities out of the way, and then we will remove the bridge, and we install one. We'll have it done, assuming everything goes according to plan, by this fall.
And I know all the homeowners have been notified.
Yep.
Because in full disclosure, I live up in Marial, and I received a letter as well.
Yep.
So, and you were just, so the public watching, we're looking at a mid to late fall for a completion.
That is what's been set up, and that's in the contract.
Mayor?
Jack, when you close a bridge, you close it, but some of the bridges in New Milford that have been rebuilt have allowed, build one side, keep the other side with drive, and then change. Is that a possibility there?
No. This bridge, Bob, when we went for design, with the new Army Corps of Engineers standards and DEP standards, the bridge actually itself underneath will be 40 feet long, which is 20 feet longer than it is today. It's in the exact same location, but we looked at the cost of trying to do what you've mentioned, and I think my predecessor looked at that also. It's cost prohibitive. So the way we bid it was to say, once you start it, rip it out, put the new, cut the abutments. Going toward West Meeting House, we have to stop short because we have to keep West Meeting House open. So one lane at West Meeting House will be shut down. There'll be alternating traffic there just because of the proximity. We're going to do Van Car in about another year. We're going to have the same issue with Van Car. But because of the proximity to the intersection, we don't want to cut into the intersection. So we're being very cautious on that. But to answer your question, we looked at that, Bob. It was cost prohibitive.
Alex?
So is the bridge going to look similar, or is it a whole new design that's visible to because that one fit the area?
It doesn't look no, it's not the same. You can't, when you go through the design process, you can't use that same type of guardrails, guide rail sides on a bridge today. You have to look at using the ones that meet the standards today. I believe that this one is one that looks similar to the bridge that's further down on Marial towards center of town. We'll have a stone veneer with the metal guide rails attached.
And Jack, you've had at least 2 public meetings with residents that have allowed them to come in and give input, right?
Oh yeah, we've had, I want to say, Mayor, we've had 3. We've actually gone and I've test driven and timed all of the detours. We actually paved the detours so that anybody who has to take a detour now, all the roads that are involved have been upgraded.
And I know you also work with the first responders to make sure response times.
Yeah, Kevin Reynolds took the ladder truck and test drove the time on that. I spoke with the ambulance. We timed the ambulance from the time to leave the barn. And we will put a sign on, here we go. That's what happens, you turn 66. The dirt road at East Buck Rock, we're going to we don't want people going on East Buck Rock as a detour. We want them to go the other directions. There you go. It does work. Just takes a minute.
So where did you find
find the bats? Were they under the bridge?
No, actually, what it is I was talking to the Army Corps just before I came up. Supposedly, there must be some cave in New Milford that
There is.
has long-eared bats. Because we had gone through the process of getting permits, we were all set. And then Army Corps, because of the duration, this project was originally permitted in 2017. They wanted one last review. When they did that, the long-eared bats came up. This only came up in the late fall, or early, almost winter. And so we have to, we want to find the cave. But anyway, they said that the long-eared bat is on the endangered species list, and because it's in New Milford, we have to look. It's actually, now it's interesting because the person that's coming tomorrow is coming to look at Brookside, because we have Brookside scheduled too. So what happened was, nobody could tell us who, we could not get the name of someone. Zach, the people from the land commission had a name for us. I just reached out to the person arbitrarily, and the young lady said she's going to come out tomorrow and do the study for us. So we're off we're going.
So nobody's actually seen them? at
No,
the
and
bridge?
that's why we want to, you have to follow a certain protocol.
Mhm.
And so we're going to follow, that person who comes out, we mailed her the protocol. She's going to come out. We're actually going to get Army Corps, Matthew Hackett on the phone, and we're going to talk tomorrow and hopefully work out all the details.
And Jack, lastly, can you update the council on the sidewalks that we've got the grants for, the 2 grant processes? The one we talked about before will be south of the high school, going all the way up to Savings Bank of Danbury, then filling the hole at where Taco Bell is, and then coming down Canterbury School. And then the second one, obviously being tied in, is the ones 3 Brothers all the way down into Pettibone. If you could kind of give a timeline on when the expectation.
We just got the bids in, and we're going through review. And because it's federal money, we're working with the state of Connecticut and their engineering team that they have in place to work with us on this. The bids came in. If the low bid would be just a little under what the original estimate was, and the second bid would be right about or just a little over what the original bid was. As soon as we're ready to, we can work out the final details, we'll be coming to the purchasing authority, make our recommendation, and we'll finalize the contracts and off we'll go.
Great. Thank you, Jack. And that's what I got, Katie.
Sure. Okay. So, let's move on to item 3. I'm sorry, we already did the youth agency. Skip that. Item 7. I'd like to move to approve the road closure requested by the New Milford River Fest and the Ostomy Awareness Foundation to close Youngsfield Road October 5th, 2024 from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. with a rain date of October 6th, and that will be so they can hold the River Fest Ostomy Awareness River Run, and that's pending traffic approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Item 8A, I'd like to move that we approve the following appointment to the Arts Commission. That would be Joan Ivler. Her term would be February 26, 2024 through January 31st, 2026.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Moving to item 8B, which was, that would be Mr. Tony Vengrove.
You doing?
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot, we changed, sorry, Tony. That would be discussion on the state mandated training for the zoning board commission members.
Mr. Taylor?
Sorry, Bill.
Good evening, and thank you for moving me up in the pecking order, Mr. Mayor.
Anytime.
Do appreciate it. Mr. Mayor, members of the Town Council, Attorney DeBella, pursuant to Section 9 of Public Act 2129, which includes new requirements for 1, training of municipal land use officials, 2, the establishment of land use training guidelines, and 3, the reporting on the training compliance. The zoning commission is required to submit a statement to the legislative body of the town of New Milford, the town council, affirming compliance with the training requirement established pursuant to this section by each member of such commission or board required to complete such training in the calendar year ending the preceding December 31st. Statement shall be made no later than March 1. I'm here this evening to deliver that statement. For the year ending December 31st, 2023, one elected member of the Zoning Commission completed his training, Mr. Joe Baker, who spoke earlier. One newly elected member, Mario Scalafani, is exempt from the 2023 requirement due to his recent election to the commission in November 2023. One alternate to the commission, Patricia Bogie, completed the 2023 within the calendar year, though she was not required to do so. The remaining 3 members, Bill Taylor, Charles Bogie, and Greg Mullen, did not complete the 2023 training. Questions?
Mary Jane?
So what exactly is the training? And how many hours and?
Training
can
is
you
4 hours.
describe it?
4 hours of training required by the state statute. One of which must be, is mandatory, which is a course on affordable and fair housing policies.
And is this online? Or you
I
have to
believe
go up
most
there?
of them are online, they're webinars, et cetera.
Mhm.
Thank you. So what's the plan for everyone to be trained?
There is no plan.
So we're going to make sure it happens?
I'm not, no.
Okay.
Just bluntly, I'm not going to do that.
So you're not going to take the training?
No.
No? And why is that?
I can only speak for myself. I cannot speak for any other commission
Yeah, I'm
member
asking you
here,
to
but
speak
just
for
for
yourself.
myself.
Go for it.
In the Constitution of the State of Connecticut clearly states the requirements for office. Section 3 of Article 2 of the amendments to the Constitution is amended to read as follows. Every elector who attains the age of 18 years shall be eligible to any office in the state, but no person who has not attained the age of 18 shall be eligible therefore except in cases provided by this Constitution. That applies to all offices, though towns may have a non-elector if they wish. Secondly, the General Assembly shall by general law delegate such legislative authority as from time to time it deems appropriate to towns, cities, and boroughs, relative to the powers, organization, and form of government of such political subdivisions. The General Assembly shall from time to time by general law determine the maximum terms of office of various towns, city, and borough elective officials. After July 1st, 1969, the General Assembly shall enact no special legislation to the powers, organization, terms of elective offices, or form of government of any single town, city, or borough, except as to borrowing power, validating acts, and C, formation, consolidation, or dissolution of any town or borough, unless in the determination, of legislative authority by general law, the General Assembly shall have failed to prescribe the powers necessary to effect the purpose of such special legislation. As per our oath of office, which each of us took, everybody at this table, me, our state representatives, our governor, everybody, it's a requirement to sit here for me to speak to you. You do solemnly swear or affirm, as the case may be, that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Connecticut, so long as you continue a citizen thereof, and that you will faithfully discharge, according to law, the duties of the office to the best of your abilities, so help you God. Based on these references that I cited above, I view Section 9 of Public Act 2129 as unconstitutional under the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of Connecticut, to which I pledge to uphold and support. I cannot in good conscience adhere to this section of the Public Act, as it imposes unconstitutional constraints on my ability to hold public office, which the legislature, under its oath of office, is forbidden to do without amending the Constitution. That's my reason that I will not participate.
Well, that's your reason, but what do you have about, do you feel like have you looked at the educational piece and do you feel it's worthless and it's not worth your time? Or I always feel like education helps everybody for the most part.
Whether or not the training is good or bad, the legislature cannot impose that as a requirement on an elected official.
I hear what
No,
you're saying.
No, you don't hear what I'm saying.
Oh, I
It's not a
don't?
matter of principle. It's a matter of the Constitution. They can't do this. and therefore I will not do it. Training may be great. Do you take training?
I took training all through my career.
No. Did you take training to sit in that chair?
Yes, I did.
What did you take?
CCM, what is it? CCM.
I didn't hear you.
CCM, Connecticut Conference of Municipalities.
A conference.
They offer lots
Okay.
of.
Did you take accounting?
Lots of training.
Did you take basic accounting, basic
You know
economics,
what?
basic constitutional law?
My point is that education is a value to everybody.
I agree.
And I don't know why you're so opposed to it. It just
It's very
seems,
simple. It's
you know.
unconstitutional.
Well, whether it's unconstitutional or not.
Okay,
if
when
it
it's
will-
unconstitutional and you support it, you're violating your oath of office.
Would it help, the residents of the town of New Milford to have a zoning commission that's
Would it help
up
the
on
town of New
everything?
Milford to have you take an accounting course in
You know what?
college? No, I'm asking the
sorry,
question.
You're like totally.
You and I are never going to agree on this, Mary Jane. It's very simple.
I know, but you're
Okay.
totally turned off about education.
I'm not turned off about education. I hold multiple university degrees. I'm
So
seriously
do I.
not turned off about education. I speak at conferences all the time. I educate myself every single day.
Well,
That's not turned off about education. You're putting words in my mouth.
if
That's
the
not what I
education
said.
is worthwhile, then it's worth taking.
No, it's not. It violates the Constitution. Therefore, it is abhorrent, and it
Well, we're not
violates
going
my oath
anywhere
of
with this
office.
conversation. I'm sorry you have that opinion. End
I
of
actually got ahold of
conversation.
you, Bill, earlier. As chairman of the Planning Commission and now vice chair of the Planning Commission, I in fact took probably over 8 hours worth of the courses because the first 4 hours, the state lost the records somewhere in their computer. So I wound up having to go back online for an hour and a half, 2-hour courses, and then in fact driving all the way down to Ridgefield to take a course live at night. As far as I know, everybody in the Planning Commission has taken that. And like I say, I wish I'd known that, talked to you before, saved me a lot of time. But it was good education. I thought I learned a lot. Fair housing, reading plans, et cetera, et cetera. So it worked out for the best for me. But, I mean, Bill's been in it a lot longer than I have. He knows his job backwards and forwards. I still learn in mine. But you're right, Bill. It is somewhat unconstitutional.
Mayor?
Hey, Chris?
So, I'd like to say, first and foremost, that I think we have an exemplary zoning commission. I think Mr. Taylor does a heck of a job heading that group. And I believe he's correct that the state this is a total overreach. They've overstepped their bounds. And I personally fully support Mr. Taylor's position.
Thank you, Chris. Anybody else with any comments?
I support Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Sal. Any, Katie?
I do too. It's
I do
unconstitutional.
too.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Bill.
Thank you very much for your
Appreciate it
time.
very much.
Thank you, Bill.
Bill, can I
Thank
have
you.
those? Are those, did you write on those at all?
Wow.
Can I have the,
I modified them as I spoke,
That's
so
okay.
they're not double voice.
that's okay, I got the gist of it, thanks.
Thank you, Bill.
All
Okay,
right.
Next is
So,
Tony.
moving on to item number 9, update on pop-up New Milford program from Tony Bengrove. Item number 9.
Tony, thank you for coming tonight and updating us on that.
Hey, everybody. Our chairman from the Corporation for Economic Development, Ole Karp, is traveling out of state, so he would have liked to be here, but he sends his best. And for those in attendance or watching that aren't really familiar with the Corporation for New Milford Economic Development, we are an independent 501c3 nonprofit with a mission to promote and assist the growth, development, and expansion of business and job opportunities in New Milford. We're a nonpartisan organization comprised of volunteer board members, and if that mission excites you and you would like to volunteer, we're always looking for new board members. So I was asked to come and provide an update on the pop-up program. We're completing our 6th month here at the end of February, and we've learned a lot. It's been great. I think there's some things we need to kind of course correct on and work on, but I'll talk about those in a second. Again, you know, the vision for this program was to attract businesses that have been in existence for a few years, working out of their house, that are having some success, have good cash flow, looking to grow, and might have a dream of going from the home to a traditional brick and mortar. And the pop-up program is an opportunity for them to, at a low-cost way, get some experience operating out of a retail store. So we entered, the corporation entered into a MOU with Ann Company on Bank Street with Bobby Joe Beers for a 6-month test run, and she allowed us to use 600 square foot of space in the back of the store. Probably one of the biggest updates, to just clear right out of the way, is Bobby Joe actually sold the store to Melissa Martins a few weeks ago. Melissa was a participant in the store, so she's very kind of up to speed with what's going on there. She's very excited about it. She's injected a big new sense of energy into the place, and I've had a couple meetings with her. Bobby Joe is just looking to. She had 3 stores. She's looking to just create some focus. She was very happy with the pop-up program. She wants to stay involved and support the corporation and the work we're doing. She's actually getting a business coaching license and would love to be a part of the mentorship team that we're building as well. So I don't see that being an issue. Our MOU does end at the end of March, however, and I'll talk a little bit about next steps there. So one of the things we had envisioned in the beginning of this thing was that we would allow people to come into the space for periods of 30 days approximately. And what we found out 2 things. One is 30 days really isn't enough time for people to really get a feel for what it takes to operate a retail business. And secondly, and probably more importantly, there just didn't seem to be a latent demand of these businesses that were ready to come in. There are several that were very interested in learning more about it, but when they peeled back the onion, they had a lot of other things to do and plan for, in some cases raise capital to get the inventory to do it, and so they just weren't ready. So I think there's an opportunity to engage those businesses, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So therefore, our first participant, Kevin and Lori Lane, who own Create a Castle here in town, they've had a great success. I know you all know about them, and they are on Shark Tank, and they're just having great kind of global success with their product. They came in September, and they've been in the store. They came in because they wanted to get experience in a retail environment doing workshops to figure out how they can create these educational, experiential workshops that they can then roll out into other big chain, Targets of the world and so forth, where they can bring that kind of experiential workshop to big retailers where they sell products. And so I had a kind of an exit interview with them a couple weeks ago, and they were really, really happy with the program. They were happy with the sales. They were happy with the exposure. One of the biggest lessons learned that they realized was, they thought they do a pretty good job on social media. Well, they realized a lot of people didn't know who they were. So it made them realize they still got a lot of brand awareness building to do, but they felt being on Bank Street, they got the word out, and there's so many people coming to the downtown from outside of the area and even outside of the country because of the Gilmore Girls attraction here, that they felt it was really great being in the program. So much so that Kevin reached out to me back in December asking if I knew about any of the empty retail spaces downtown, because they would consider maybe doing their own store at some point. So to me, that's a great sign of success. We went from, starting with one objective to feeling like they could actually do retail if the conditions were right for them. So to me, that was it's a great success story for them, and I'm happy that they participated. So while they were in the space, I was slowly trying to nurture and create relationships and see if we could get the next group business in. And I found a gentleman named Basira who has a company called Stay Positive Generation. He's a really wonderful young man, and he has a premium line of clothing and accessories and SPG stands for Stay Positive Generation, and he's trying to imbue this brand, kind of targeting to a younger demographic with this kind of stay positive message. And I think it's really cool. He's got a great taste. It's really nicely designed, and he wasn't ready to come in full time. So Bobby Joe and I gave him a little bit of space in the store, so he got into the space a little bit before Christmas, and he's off to a good start. And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't expecting this, but today they called me up, and he's like, he wants to make the leap into the bigger space. So I don't have all the details on that. He might just take half of the back space, but he thinks he can be ready to do that in a couple months. So I think one of the things we've learned here is, when people come in, they're going to need a little bit more time, and it's going to take a little bit more time for us to recruit the right businesses to come in. One of the things I've been very cautious of is I don't want to force anybody, right? If they're not ready to do it, if it's not a real pull, the last thing we want to do is kind of force people to do something they're not really ready and fail. I mean, that's like the last thing we want to do, right? So I think what Melissa and I are going to be doing is figure out how we can execute the program here, but without necessarily having like a month-to-month agreement with her. So after Creative Castle exits, I think they're going to stay in the store with some sort of presence, but not necessarily in the pop-up space. We might take a little bit of a month or two pause until we can get Stay Positive Generation ready to kind of come in while we continue to recruit. So it might not just be every month we have something going on there. When the right people are ready, we'll work with Melissa to create the space for them. Okay. Also, in parallel, we've been working on what we're calling like a mentorship library. So we've built 16 business topic areas, from marketing to retail merchandising to intellectual product, technology, and a whole host of things. And we've been assigning people locally, mostly, with direct experience in these areas. So when we talk to some of these businesses and we figure out what their most important needs are and their pain points are, we can say, well, this person over here went through the same thing and you should talk to them and they might be able to help you. I'm actually very bullish on this because in the conversations I've had, I think people need this support and this network to take the step to grow. A lot of people are just don't know what to do. They get kind of stuck. Some of these businesses are side hustles, so they don't necessarily have the time to do all the research on their own. So if we can help accelerate the learning curve and inspire them to do some of the work and the planning to get to the next stage, then maybe we can kind of fuel the pipeline here a little bit more. So also the point I was going to make about that is, as we market the town as being business friendly, I think this could be a really nice little feature to say, what better of demonstrating that we work as a community to support each other than we have this group of business people willing to help you succeed here in town. So that's kind of the vision I have for that. That's really the highlight of stuff. The town was very generous in giving us a grant to fund this project when Nick Gunkel and I first approached you. So of the grant, I'm sure you guys will be curious about where we stand on that. You generously donated, is that the right term? Granted $25,000 to the corporation for this program. Mr. Gunkel, who was hired to get the program off the ground, his fee was a little over $13,000. And between the rent we're paying to and company and the other marketing expenses, we have a little over $9,000 left to continue the program. And that does not include the grant money we received from another bank to fund some of the mentorship stuff that I mentioned as well. So we're not spending the money quickly. We're using it, I think, wisely as needed. And that's it. So Any questions?
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah.
Katie?
Tony, great job. I just have a couple questions. So, I'm right next door there. I've seen some of these people on Bank Street come and go, a lot of them. In this case, my question is, do the people that come in for the pop-up, now, Create a Castle was really already known, so that didn't count too much. But in the case of the SPG, do they gather at Downtown Merchant? Does that person become involved with the Downtown Merchant meetings? Are they invited? In other words, does he have an opportunity to be seen and see and talk with other than the store that he's in?
That's a good question. I don't believe the participants within the Ant Company are going to that merchant meeting, but I do know, like Bobby Joe was, and Melissa, I think she's so new, she hasn't attended one yet, but I had spoken to her about that.
Could we have them invite him?
I can certainly ask.
I just think that because and I think it's a great way to do it, but if it, like this particular person, it's a startup for the person and startup for the town, that who would know what it's about or that he's there, and then, we're leaving a person to kind of forward that on their own. So now that you've told me that there's somebody back there, I'll go in and say hi.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was there. So has any comment been made to you by a business person you've talked to, that they like one type of space for pop-up better than another? I mean, I know we're using the way it's been done here, but do they ever say, gee, no, I was thinking more of a blank space, or?
Not really. I mean, in the kind of the conversation I had with the lanes, remember when we were looking at the other space on Main Street, they said that probably would have been way, way too big.
Too big for them.
So, I think, if there was a space the size of the Ant Company space, or, some of the other smaller spaces on Bank Street, that might be okay for the right company to come in and do something fairly big. I do think, having had the experience with what I was doing with pop-ups at Makery once a month, I still think there's an opportunity for somebody in the community to offer a similar type of thing, where these people have like a monthly place to come and sell more publicly, face to face.
Has any artist ever come to you, or a couple of artists?
Yes.
They're kind of common in the move along pop-up.
Right. I think I've been a little hesitant. We've had a couple early on. I had some artists come. I'm just not sure if that
is equated to what you
to what the original vision of this was.
No, I got that. I just wondered if
because again, we're trying to get people that would open up their own retail store. So I'm not sure that not too many artists are in that position, I think.
No,
right now,
unfortunately.
To do it.
Right. Thanks. I think
Any
you're doing a good job.
questions for Tony? Alex?
Thank you very much for this. This is wonderful. When do you meet? How often do you meet as a group?
What, the corporation?
Yes.
Yeah, we have monthly meetings as an executive committee, and then we have quarterly full board meetings.
Got it.
Yeah, and then our subcommittees meet as needed, and then the Ant Company group has monthly meetings as well. Obviously, it's outside of this, but
Right.
What's going on with the pop-up, and so they're all kind of meeting together to try to kind of figure out how they can get more traffic into the store and so forth.
So more traffic, and then Katie, with following up on what Katie said about not knowing they were back there, is there something that we can do to raise awareness of these once they're open, to get more traffic, to get people more aware? Can we announce those openings here at the table?
Yeah, we did announce when the lanes did their grand opening in the pop-up. We pushed it out on our social sites.
We got a little
Newspaper
press,
did
too.
good stories on it.
Yeah.
And then when the new ones would come in, we'd be doing the same thing.
Yeah. Anything we can do.
But that I didn't want to take up too much time, but I think I have been talking to a lot of businesses, obviously that could be candidates for this, but also a lot of people downtown, And it's been like a really, really slow start to the year, and there's a lot of concern. And so I think, your question is, I think, even broader than just creating awareness for downtown. And at our last board meeting of the corporation, I raised this as a topic, and I'd like to keep going and interviewing people and getting a sense of collecting insights and kind of figuring out what they're struggling with. In some cases, this mentorship thing, like one of the business women that opened a store was saying, I kind of jumped into this and I realized, as Mr. Baker was saying, I didn't know what I didn't know, and so was looking for like support of like how to merchandise the store properly, how to do retail promotions properly. And so, having been downtown and participating in that merchant meeting, a lot of times I've seen people default to, well, it's parking. It's like parking's always the boogeyman of the whole thing. And so what I really am intellectually curious about now is, let's really understand what's happening and what some of the dynamics are, and maybe we can all get together and figure out if we can resolve some of these issues and make things better and get more foot traffic. I've been to a lot of communities. My in-laws live in Lidditz, Pennsylvania, and it reminds me of New Milford. But the amount of foot traffic in retail stores is just much more vibrant. And so I'm like, well, why is that? Like, what's really going on? Is it just the mix of assortment of stores and restaurants that we have? It's changed. It's a lot more restaurants downtown. And so I have a few hypotheses, and I want to opine on them because I'm taking up a lot of time.
Ever consider having a training for people? I mean, that's one way to meet people in what the kind you're looking for. Want to learn more about how to start your own pop-up? We're going to have a training and have a few people on a panel like yourself and others. How about that?
Yeah,
that's free for you.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to do, but when we got into the holiday season and we were experiencing kind of the difficulty of getting interested people over the hump, we were going to do like a big informational session and try to do that. And I still think there's an opportunity to do that, but I just didn't think the holiday season was the right time to do it.
No, it's been slow. The other thing was that the Castle people moved in. They were there during Sip and Stroll, so at least 500-600 people walked in and out, and if they didn't know who they were, and so this SPG, if he hangs in there, he could be for one of the spring or summer events. So I think that's another thing, is that it takes something to get people in the store to the back.
Yeah, I think he'll be an interesting case because he's going to, the people that have come in initially that really are
liking it,
going right to his thing, are younger folk.
Great.
So that's his marketing challenge, how to communicate to that audience to come into the store. So.
Any other questions? Alex?
Yeah, since I'm the one that brought this up in the first place, I think, is there a way for us to have regular reports about how things are doing? Because it brings economic development to the table more frequently, and people can hear, or it gets us talking about it. I mean, we need it. Mm-hmm. We need our empty stores filled. We need a variety of businesses if we're going to serve all these people that are going to be moving in. But if the town were more vibrant, especially downtown, I'd love to have a more regular report. Is that something we can do?
Absolutely, we could ask the corporation. But I do believe myself that the downtown is extremely vibrant. I had a business down here for 25 years. And the change of the businesses, you have more of a dynamic of the restaurants. You have different types of more upscale businesses. You have home decor business here. You have a bookstore here now that's thriving. You have a library now that's reopened to draw destination dollars, 2 toy stores. But like with any industry, you do have ebbs and flows with retail. Unfortunately, we have one property owner that, for whatever reason, doesn't want to lease out his storefronts, even though we've given him about 15 people that want a lease from there. I have no idea why they do not, but unfortunately, when you're dealing with people's personal property, it makes it difficult.
Also, the restaurants are great, and in some towns, the stores stay open later.
Yeah, see.
There are no stores open when I go to dinner at 7 o'clock.
So this is kind of what I'm talking about. I don't want to go too deep in the weeds. I'm not suggesting that the town isn't vibrant.
know
I'm just
you're
saying it's evolving naturally based on the changing dynamics of the market, society, and culture, online shopping, and so forth. And so I just think the more we talk about it and study it and understand it,
Exactly.
maybe the more we can help make it even better. Personally.
Would you ever mention that or talk about, when you discuss, I know because you used to be down there, about that some of the merchants staying open a little later? We talked about once Fridays and...
I don't want to speak for all of them, but the ones I talk to, see, the ones I talk to say staying open late doesn't necessarily equate to sales. It might get people to come in and check it out, and it's hard to say, well, does that help a future sale or not? But, they can better represent how they feel about these things. But, for me personally, I think, when I first moved here in '98, I could come downtown, park the car, and check a lot of things off my to-do list to get done. And I'm not saying it's better or worse, it's just different. So now I come down, and it's either for a very specific reason, to go out to dinner. Maybe I do two things. I go to a movie and then a dinner, or grab a cocktail and do something else. But if I'm shopping, I'm usually coming down for a specific reason. Again, this is just me personally. And so I just think, the more we understand how people are shopping today, because, it's marketing and strategy. You have to understand what your customer wants and help provide a great experience so they get what they want.
Well, you're working at it.
Yeah. So.
Any other questions for Tony? Thank you, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate you coming in. Thank you.
Oh, can I just make one more plug?
Yep.
We used to have the Best of the Best awards kind of for small businesses. We're bringing that back on May 16th, and there will be a call for nominations in a few weeks, so keep your eyes on that.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
When
you,
did you
Tony.
say that was going to be?
16th.
May 16th.
Thank you.
Okay, next is
Okay.
the fire department. We're going to talk about Lanesville Fire Station.
Yes, I would like to move that we take an action to approve the Lanesville Fire Station expansion.
Second.
We can come up and have a discussion now that we have a second and a motion.
Evening. Assistant Chief Sean Delaney, 31 Wellsville Avenue.
Mark Haber, 40 Carbon Hill Road, firefighter. This has been about 13 years in the making. About the last 18 months, it's picked up speed. We've prepared a little slideshow for you to walk you through what we're thinking, our needs, our growth, all of that. Little agenda, introduction, our call volumes and where we're trending, our objective, who's on the committee. We've put some site plans together, a project timeline, the budget, and then any questions afterwards. Who we are, Waterwich Hose is made up of 6 officers, 50 active on-call members, plus a bunch of support. We cover 49 square miles in this town. It is a lot. The Lanesville substation, we have 9 members on the committee. We also have 3 Lanesville station trustees that are appointed by the town, and we currently house 9 apparatus or ancillary equipment down there. Our annual call volume over the last 15 years. We've been as low as 508. We've been as big as 694. We've steadily grown in the last 15 years. Already this year, we're projected to do 750 calls. That's an 8% increase from last year. And we're only through 2 months of this year where we're projecting this. So as you can see, it just keeps going up and up. We've done about a 5-year projection. with all the growth, expansion, everything going on, we feel will be about 1,100 calls in the year 2029. That's a 47% increase from where we are at the end of this year. What do we want to do? We want to align the service with an evolving town. Development of Route 7. We have over 450 housing units proposed, Still River, all over the place. Increase in population and businesses. We've got a ton of storage units going in, other businesses coming to town. The rising traffic and rates of speed on Route 7. What does all that equate to? Increases the call volume and hours on a roadway that we're on. It takes a toll on us. We're trying to plan for the growth of that as we move forward. What are our objectives? We've reached capacity to house equipment down at Lanesville to support the growth of town in Milford. We're here to request the funds for a substation renovation addition. This will increase our capabilities and pre-planning strategies during weather events and large-scale incidents such as the high school, the macro burst, anything that may pop up. We also want to be able to ensure the capabilities to continue to expand the fire department with the growth of town. We don't want to be behind as New Milford grows. On the committee, myself as the chairman, we have the 3 trustees that are here tonight. David Galembeski, who's the president of the department. I had advisors as Sean Delaney and Chief Elsesser who have helped us through. What we've done, we've assessed and discussed what the department's needs are going to be for the next 5, 10, 15 years, whatever it may be, at minimum 5 years. We've put a budget together. We've spoken to local contractors to try to get this work completed. We've developed floor plans, scope of work, and what our existing conditions are that need to be renovated. If we should move forward with this, the committee will work closely with the town of Milford, Public Works, the contractor, all of the building facilities, to make sure that this gets done correctly and on time. This is a current state of it. In 1980, we put up the original building. In 2000, we put on a essentially 3-bay addition with drive-through bays.
And Mark, sorry to interrupt, but
Yep.
for those that are new to the council or in the audience, this is a town building.
Yes.
Yes, correct.
So for
Yes.
some of the audience, they may think that,
Completely town-owned, and
Yep.
on an annual basis, you have a line item in the budget currently, at, I believe, 41,000 and change for maintenance and running the actual facility.
thank you.
So as you can see, about every 20 years, we've had to upgrade to meet the needs of the town. We're about 25 years now. To move forward, we've asked to look at putting an addition across the back. Part of this addition in the floor plan is going to be 2 more additional bays, as well as a training room and upgraded facilities such as ADA compliant bathrooms, places for the men to be there if they're on standby for weather events. As you can see, this also reconfigures the dead end on Lanesville where there's the current gate. All of that would be redesigned. What was this based off of? This was a sketch from 2014 that is done by the DPW. We've taken this sketch and modified it a little bit. We were only going to take half the back of the building. We figured why not take the whole back of the building instead of just partial, and we kept the driveway scenario of coming out around the gate as we can't make the turn with current apparatus straight out of the bay. This was the starting point of where we were. We took some plans and modified them. A training room, and then 2 apparatus bays to house in an emergency or anything our larger apparatus. We could essentially relocate the tower down there if we needed to, or we can have apparatus in front of trailers to help save time of hookup. Right now we move around equipment to hook up to the boats and hook up to the Ranger. This would allow us to be right in front and eliminate wasted time to move stuff around. We could be on the water with a boat in about 3 or 4 minutes, going out to Candlewood Heights, Gerards, anything like that out of Lanesville by being pre-hooked up. Our project timeline. We would go out to bid August of 2024, work with the town in November of 2024, and in May of 2025, we would have a site work ready and the building delivered. That's unfortunately where the project doesn't stop. In August of 2025, we'll start out the phase 2 of the project, which is the renovation of the existing building and then the fit out of the new building. This would put us over 2 fiscal cycles to help with all of the expenditures. In November of 2025, we'd select a contractor, and we're figuring about another 9 months to do the renovation and fit up. Where are we with money-wise? We're at $4.1 million right now. This has gone up from about 6 months ago by about 3 or 4%. So we've looked at all of that. I believe the mayor has this and can share any questions with it. We've got it broken down from our contractor of what is needed and what we think is going to get the job done.
And obviously, this has to go through all the purchasing authority.
Absolutely.
Has to go through our bid process.
Yes.
Also, this would go to the Municipal Building Committee for them to give a once-over, as is per our process and ordinance. And then the timeline we spoke about, this type of timelines, crossing over 2 fiscal budgets, obviously, to help us when it comes to cash flow and money management.
I have a question.
Okay?
So, thank you, very thorough, and I can appreciate the fact you're looking forward in the, as you said, taking from half and going on. Is there a second floor in the building?
There is not.
And you wouldn't consider a second floor for offices or whatever? I mean, while you're there, is that, I was just curious that there wasn't a second floor when you're gonna have meeting rooms and you need room for the trucks, but that's up to you. The other question I had was, you mentioned the dead-end gate.
Yes.
So that mean you're gonna take that away?
No, it would still be there, but it will be upgraded to a
So you-
siren-activated.
So you can
Yes.
go right out?
Yes.
I've often wondered about that.
Yes.
What do you do now?
We have to walk into the building, grab the key, unlock it, swing it open, then we've got to swing it closed and lock it before we move out. This upgrade of siren activated would open it, we can swing through and it would close. That
Okay.
gate will help tremendously as well in the event we should have to shut down Route 7 again, and we're not playing around with it.
Okay. No, that's my only question, really, I guess. But would, the fact that you're doing this over 2 budget cycles, right? Does that mean you're gonna, no, I guess you're gonna split everything. So the cost would go up. I mean,
Okay.
anything that you price in the first budget is gonna be more when you come back.
We actually, when we put this out to bid to the contractors, we told them that this would be a 2-phase project. Okay? This was not out to bid as in a full bid, this was a request for pricing, an idea of where we stood. The idea here is that in talking with the mayor, going to bond and being fiscally responsible and making sure, because we know that there are a lot of other things happening in this town right now. The first thing that we did is the capability of our bonding. If we can do the first part, which is get the structure, do the site work, and build the building, erect the building, that gives us the first part of the bond. In the second cycle, we can then take and finish off the rest of it with the remaining funds. That's how we priced that 4.1 million.
And
So
how
that
much-
was over the 2 courses.
How much renovation does the existing building
A
need?
lot. It's going to be fully gutted. It's going to be, we're reconfiguring things. We're making it so that instead of needing a second floor, which would cost us more money, we're spanning it out and we're taking the plumbing, we're taking all the different areas and different offices and pushing them in and making them more user-friendly, I would invite you, all of you,
Yes.
at any time,
To see, yeah.
to call me. Come down to Lanesville, walk around, see what our volunteers on a regular basis climb over when we get called out.
And it's been.
I'll give it to you later.
And-
I don't want to put it, I know that there's other people watching, and I know that I'll get all sorts of things.
What was the update or grade that was done in 2020 to the building? You said that's when.
2000.
2000, I'm sorry.
2000.
There was a whole addition put on, but the first part, the 1980s building was not renovated.
Oh, it was not?
It was not. They just put on the addition. There was a demising wall between it.
Okay.
And that's all that it was done.
Okay, and so now you're allocating enough space to get your equipment out and turned.
Correct.
You're taking all the future issues that you could possibly think of as far as equipment, I mean, how big it might be or blah, 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 blah.
Equipment, space, and then offering it for other facilities. DPW, when they come in, they have guys that come down and use they plow our driveways,
Yeah.
thankfully, but they also come in. If there's going to be staging somebody down that way,
Oh, I
we can
see.
stage them.
I see.
The PD, any type of other actual uses, EOC. We've been talking about an EOC facility. That training facility can
Right.
easily be transformed into an EOC facility
And you've
in a matter of
considered
minutes.
the new building that's going on and the people that will be moving in, et cetera, in this?
We have, everything is blowing
Great.
up, literally.
Yes.
Thank you.
Maybe. How will this impact your work during construction?
During
How-
construction,
Yeah.
Right. So we've talked about phasing and moving some stuff around. We have currently some equipment that is in trailers that we would be able to house either in a temporary facility or somewhere else and move some stuff. So our idea is to take from the 2000 building and shift everything over to one side, the 1980s building, and then when that's done, shift everything back and then renovate so that we're not gutting the whole firehouse.
Got it.
Part of the fiscal, 2 years fiscal, the building's gonna take 6 to 8 months to get. So it's part of why we span it over. There's not much we can do without a building. So if we can get the building and the site work done, as soon as that comes in, then the real construction can start of gutting the inside, bringing it up, the lighting up to date. The furnace, the generator, the service, all of that stuff can be updated to current codes so that in event we need to be there, we can. Right now, all of our staffing is done at our headquarters because we don't have the resources to put 5 guys down at Lanesville for a 24-hour snowstorm event. It's just not feasible. So,
And we have Faith Church down there, we have
You have Faith
Hill and
Church,
Plain.
you have Hill
I
and
mean-
Plain, but you also have on Pickett District, a whole brand new complex going in.
yeah.
You have what's going on 7. You have the expansion with the sewer line. You know, the fact of the matter is that we've looked at this and we've talked about it. The point that we started, that drawing was 2013. Back then it was $1.5 million. We've kicked it down the road a little longer and we hit a $2.5 million back in 2017. Now it's 4.1. It's the same footprint. As we move along, it's just going to cost us more. One of the biggest things that we look at is everybody around us. We take and we look at the trends. Well, where we are right now is where Brookfield was a few years ago. They have an increase in facilities, an increase in residential properties, apartments, everything, commercial space. We're not just talking about the apartments, we're talking about everything that's happening. They have blown up. And again, they're running 1,000 calls now. We are the gateway to Litchfield. That flow is coming from Fairfield into Litchfield. And that's where we're turning around saying, hey, we need to do something now so that we're ready and we're not coming to you guys ringing an emergency bell in a couple of years.
Mayor and Paul?
Yes, I have a question about this fantastically well-planned facility. You know, I always thought it was small. I see what you're doing. The question I have, do you have enough land if you ever had to make the next 20-year expansion?
No. At this point, the land goes up to the sight line with the golf course, and it goes as far as we are on our footprint. So this is a fiscally responsible piece of property that the town has graciously given us. Back in 1980s, our forefathers, our past chiefs, had the foresight to say, hey, something's changing in this town. And it was Route 7. And now it's more prevalent. So these guys that sit on the trustees, they've been with us for 50 years. They're past chiefs. We have 3 members of our board, our building committee, that are no longer with us, that started off this idea back in 2013 and haven't been able to see it through. It's time. It's time now before we have to go any further.
And you asked about the 20-year plan. That is why I took the 13, or the committee took the 13 plan where it was only half the back of the building and expanded it to the full building to get our full potential this go around, so that we weren't in 20 years trying to add that small little piece and say, well, what do we do now? Because we're in a corner. That's part of the expansion of taking the whole back side of the building and not just a small piece. We looked at that many hours to fully maximize this in one shot.
Well, took some of my thunder away with the footprint of the property.
Yep.
Do you respond to every call that Waterwitch 1 goes to?
Yeah, well, so Waterwitch Hose Company number 2 is 2 stations. We have our headquarters here, so that everybody's aware. We have our headquarters here, and then we have our firehouse down at Lanesville. At any given time when the bell goes off, it depends on where you are, okay? It depends on if you're a driver, are you going to headquarters or are you going down to Lanesville? A number of our drivers from Lanesville are responding to 95 to 98% of our calls, okay? That being said, there is that flexibility. If you're driving by, well, you're not gonna drive to the center house to grab a truck. You're gonna grab it from here. But what it also gives us is it also gives us a little future expansion for the next couple of years with our headquarters. Headquarters is also cramped. But with this is flexible now. We have that flexibility. We also have a training room down there, which is huge. All these things, you know, we kind of, it's basically, it gives us the flexibility of going wherever we need to. And of course, pulling resources from where we need to. We have all of our boats down there right now. We have our UTV, which is a Ranger, which goes up to the Appalachian parks. Right. We respond all over the area with that.
What I was concerned about was if the room was available to maybe put a substation down there for the ambulance service.
It could easily be. In the last couple of months, we've housed the ambulance at our house as well as at Lanesville due to the fact of different things that were going on their house. Right. There's a lot of flexibility there. And again, when we have different types of storm events, if we staff Lanesville right now, our volunteers are sleeping on cots in between the apparatus on our bay floors. There's very little room, and I would love to show you guys this, because it is. You look at it and you go, how are they doing it?
Do we still have somebody down there daily, one of the volunteers, or is the building?
Yep.
So, I mean, I'll give you the prime example this morning with the car versus tractor trailer. I myself, who lives on the south end of town, I'm 2 minutes from Lanesville. Freddie's about 4 minutes. Both of us responded, and we had 2 pieces of apparatus on the road. If I were to try to get to headquarters, on a good day, 8 to 10 minutes. On a good day. When the bridge was out, it was 27 and a half minutes for me to get there during an emergency.
When it floods and we're cut off, it takes a long time just to traverse traffic, whether you have lights and sirens on or not. When we had the Wellsville fire, we had Brookfield come up, mutual aid, and come to our house. It took them a long time just to get down Grove Street. You know, there's a lot of stuff that happens when you cut off one artery in this town. It affects everything that we do.
Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So I certainly appreciate the plan you guys put forward. Obviously, it's a steep price tag, but I'm glad that you and, us as a community are kind of looking ahead, and we're a little bit ahead of the curve, trying to get ahead of the growth that I think we all believe is coming. Just one question I have on the plan. So the building, you're showing a cost of about $600K, which, clearly you're not looking at any Taj Mahal here, but about $1 million in site work. What constitutes that sort of price tag on site work?
So part of that is the excavation, the concrete work. There's general conditions that go along with that. I also have in there some pre-planned test pits to see what exactly is back there. Because as everybody hears rumors, there's rumors of what's back there. So we don't want to be guessing at what is back there. And that is just without the contractor looking at it. That was his best guess. Also, we are going to be repaving the side of the building and that entire turnaround for us to get through the gates that are going to be set up. So you're paving, everything's going to be brand new down there. As we know, the road is deteriorating down there, and we are taking on getting our piece of the property completely set for use.
Okay, great. Well, if you find Jimmy Hoffa back there, let us know.
Yeah, that's what we're afraid of.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep. Dougie?
Sean, thank you. So I'm in full support. Obviously, talking through the meeting tonight, we talked about the influx of over 350 condos, and the majority of those that are approved are going to be in the southern part of the Milford. We also talked about traffic and accidents, and we can all say most of that happens toward this side of the bridge. And as both gentlemen mentioned, that if there's one accident on Grove Street, it's tough for the fire department to get around to get to the needs to an accident that allow them in front of the Italian media and so forth. And the proximity of the fire station is the only one close to a majority of that traffic. Most of them are over on the other bridge or north on 7. And they also mentioned lake rescue. Well, we know that since COVID, the influx of people moving up here and the traffic on the lake has increased as well. This is a long time coming. I mean, as Mr. Delaney mentioned, when they first started this project, it was $1.5 million, and now we're at 4.1. We also mentioned, I know that we talked about ARPA funds, and we got these guys the supplies they needed. And if we didn't do that, we'd probably be $250,000 more in their budget to try to get those. So we've always been proactive as a town council, whether it's the library, whether it's taking care of other vehicles for the town. And we all know it's coming, whether we want to admit it or not. We're going to have to start paying some of these firefighters. This town has grown exponentially since I've been here for 30 years, and we all seen the influx of people moving up here. And so we need to support our community and make sure the safety is the #1 issue. So I'm in fully support of this, and thank you, gentlemen, for presenting this tonight.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Katie?
So the difference in time, because time is lives, buildings being consumed. So you just said it would take you 8 to 10 minutes from where you live to get into town here. So the largest truck you have now, which is the big one,
Ladder.
can that fit in where you're changing?
Right now, no, it can't.
No, we actually
No,
have to.
but not now.
But right now, if we wanted to fit it in, it will be touching both garage doors, and we have to
Okay.
remove both sensors to get it into fit.
With the looking forward and more people coming, the potential for needing something down there is there. And I think just the time when you said that you could get up to the lake, I mean, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Well, and I mean, this also plays into insurances too. Plays into insurances for our residents. When Lanesville is taken into consideration for the insurance,
Right.
for the people on the lake and up on the lakefront communities, that is their first firehouse. We now have an ISO 3.3B. We fought hard to get that. There are only 1,500 volunteer departments
Sean, for
in
those
this
that
country.
may be watching or here on
Yep.
council, if you can explain the ISO and how
So
that,
ISO is an insurance
how that
rating.
impacts the homeowner.
ISO is an insurance rating. Basically, when you pull a property, they will tell you, based upon ISO, commercially or residentially, depending on who your provider is, how much the fire service helps or deters from your insurance rating. Over the course of the last couple of years, the 3 departments in this town, during COVID, while that was going on, we were going through our ISO rating and evaluation. It's very, very, very long, arduous process of record keeping and showing them what we do. We now received an ISO rating of 3B. That is 1,500 departments in this country that are 3B. That is not just volunteer departments. That is paid departments as well. Okay? That is the lowest that we can actually receive. Now that takes a lot of things into consideration. One, apparatus. You guys on the town council have always given us the best possible equipment. That capital expenditure fund has always allowed us to put the best apparatus on the road. 2, our response times, our training, all the things that we do in-house. Last year, our volunteers put 22,150 hours of calls, training, public events, and meeting time into their days. That's just our department, okay? If you take that and you extrapolate that out by $85 an hour, that's $1.87 million that you would be spending per hour, okay? Then they also take into consideration location, time at which we start moving things. And then one last thing that they do is water sources. Areas that are 3 are areas in a hydrogen district, which means that we can tap a water source as quickly as possible and have viable water located. But then there's also 3B, which says that we have a plan in place, meaning Waterwitch has a plan with our mutual aid departments, Northville and Gaylordsville, to automatically drop in, and if you listen to our scanner, our all call is automatically responding in tankers to areas that don't have hydrants, non-hydrated areas, so that we have viable water coming at us automatically from the first call. That in and of itself is where you save money. This is a 12% decrease in commercial insurance rates. And that's something that we are very proud of right now.
It should be. Thank you for your answers.
Mary Jane?
I just have a question,
Yep.
because I can't visualize where you have that gate that goes out onto Route 7.
Yep.
Do you have any problems? What-
No, it goes into Lanesville.
Okay.
So you come, Mark, if you
I'm
throw
trying
it
to
up.
think.
Yeah.
I know.
So Mary, if you
Yeah.
turn on and you pass Valero and you
Yeah.
go straight,
So-
you can't
Okay.
connect anymore,
Right.
that's
okay.
the gate that we're talking about.
There's a
Okay.
gate here that is manual right now. The key, yeah, the key is in this building. It's padlocked, so only we have access to it. So if DPW needs to come down, they need to somehow get into our firehouse to do this.
So working with the mayor and DPW this year, they're going to be redoing and reconfiguring and engineering a double gate at that location. This is all still tree line and area, a little bit more of a cul-de-sac on the opposite side.
Yes.
So that'll allow us to get out and get down to the, get down to Harrison condos, get down to Garrity and the new Build Right and all those facilities down there. And it gets us, we no longer will have to literally drive all the way around to get to the house that's right on the opposite side of the fence.
I
Which
understand
we
why it
just
has
did the
to
other
be
day.
that way, But boy, oh boy, that's,
Let's try.
yeah.
So you don't have any trouble getting out onto Route 7?
Oh, I
If
had
people would
lights and-
stop, yeah. we
I
wouldn't
had
have-
lights and
we wouldn't have
sirens
a
on
problem.
this morning, and it still took me a dozen cars to
So
get
we don't
out.
have an automatic light that stops everybody in every direction?
There's no light there.
Okay, that's what I was, I'm trying to visualize the whole thing. I
We're
have to look
just,
the
we're
next time I'm
just
down there.
north of the light
Right.
for Sullivan Farm.
Yeah.
And then a second gate will be somewhere in here. We're not sure the exact placement to stop anybody from trying to come back up through our property. And again, so that we can pull straight out, we loop back around, and we're into 7, because we cannot make this turn with any of our apparatus. There's just, because of the AT&T or Frontier equipment here that's got to stay, we're kind of limited on the side of the building.
Is there anything that can be done to make it easier for you to get out onto Route 7? I mean, is there anything that the state can do?
Pay attention to the red and white flashing lights and sirens. That would be the first thing.
Yeah.
You'd be amazed at how many times that we have all of our warning lights. If you see warning lights, pull over to the side of the road.
Right.
That's one of the biggest things.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I did make a motion.
Yep. And could you read back the motion?
I don't know, just that Ms. Francis moved to take action on Waynesville Fire Station expansion, and it's seconded by Mr. Esposito.
I think I said approve.
Randy, your opinion is moving this forward. Obviously, this has to go purchasing authority, bond council, has a lot of moving parts to it.
Yeah,
Right now, there is no, the motion that's on the floor, there is no up to an amount. Should there be?
There doesn't have to be. What I would say is that you made a motion to approve the request. It has to be determined by the function, by the process.
Okay.
Has to go to bond council now. That will take place at the purchasing authority and town meeting.
Yep.
That amount. But what your motion is to essentially approve and fund this project.
The action.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
All right. So we have a mayor?
We have a motion on the floor?
Yep.
Yes.
Motion and
And
a second.
second?
Yes.
sir. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you.
That was a
No.
delayed,
Any,
delayed aye.
Any nays?
Cosgrove, I'll see you when you get back here.
Any, okay.
He knows where you live.
Any abstentions?
Any abstentions?
Nope.
Thank you, everyone.
I want to thank everybody for
Appreciate
their
it.
time and
Thank you.
consideration for this. We
Thank
appreciate it.
Okay, Mayor, it's your item 11 is Mayor.
Okay, 11A is bringing forward the cannabis moratorium on the establishments in New Milford. The moratorium is now lapsing or lapsed. So it's only
Yeah.
for 1 year.
12 months.
It's been a year already, Mary Jane. It's been quick.
Let's do it again.
So the question, Randy, to kind of bring forward is, first of all, can we continue with the moratorium?
Yes, you can. You have the authority, the legislative authority can continue the moratorium for another period of time.
Okay.
Ah,
I guess to start off with that.
can I ask good town attorney?
Absolutely.
Do you mean that we could just do it by making a motion to extend the moratorium for 12 months?
Certainly.
Or any amount of time?
Yeah, or any period of time you want.
Gotcha.
24 months.
I suppose you could, but you might as well do a permanent ordinance at that point.
Well, yeah, right. But in order to just take an action and then maybe chat about it.
Yeah, as you recall, when this was proposed, I said that this gives you flexibility.
Yes.
Instead of doing a permanent kill, if you will. This essentially would allow you to extend it to do further studies or to see what the legislature does.
Yes, and they still haven't.
Or what the market might do, right?
Right, what the market's going to do.
Alex?
Yeah, I'm for the 12 months again. We have a lot to learn before doing anything else.
Correct. Yeah.
And so
Right.
let someone else figure stuff out first.
A lot of towns, a lot of problems.
So,
24 months, then we'll have to talk 12 months.
no, I think we should revisit in a year.
Yeah. So I'd like to make that motion, that we extend the cannabis moratorium on establishments in New Milford for an additional 12 months from today. Is today a good day? Okay.
Randy?
Yes.
And we have a second. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
So February 26, 2025.
Next is the infrastructure review, town buildings. This one is on John Pettibone. I received the update think Sal needs one. Does everybody have one there? Randy, do you want one?
No?
Okay. And I preface this is, obviously, this is the first time you guys are getting this. We just all got this. So this is just to kind of just review just kind of the draft itself. It is a draft. As you'll see, there's some misspellings in there. I've asked Mr. Petroselli to come to our second meeting in March to go over both this one and East Street as we're reviewing all of our buildings. I'd also like to preface this, Jack Healy's here as well, our DPW director, to talk a little bit about Pettibone as well. But first and foremost, I want to thank our facilities team here on the town side. Because as you'll begin to see, this building, except for some aging, as the facility has now, since we took it over, it's like 7, 8 years old already. Obviously, some things are going to age, but I think our facilities team's done an amazing job there.
Oh, my goodness.
We still have much use there, multiple uses there as well. It was our vaccination center, as well as currently we're housing 3 of our agencies. So what Dean has posted on here for those that are going to take a look at it is just this was to bring us up to full code, because it was not up to full code when the town took this over. So this is kind of the beginning of the conversation. Jack, can you come up for a second? And we can talk a little bit about that. Obviously, the objective, as I had asked Dean Petroselli, was to do an analysis including the site conditions, the site parking lots, sidewalks, entry drives, exterior building enveloped, interior building conditions, code analysis along with the mechanical, the plumbing, fire protection, electrical components. They didn't do any structural analysis. They didn't do any environmental air quality performed on these parts of services because we'd already have done those as well. Correct, Jack?
As we're going, yeah.
Yep. And their efforts included visual observations from the ground, visual observations from the roof, and review of limited existing documents that were made available to Petroselli and Associates. As you can see, it has the kind of a bird's eye view of Pettibone as well. Jack, I know I'd sent this over to you as well. Did you get a chance to kind of take a look at it?
Yeah, I've read it. I've read the report, yep.
Can you give the council a little bit of highlights?
Sure. I think as you go through it, Dean's done, I think, a nice job in segmenting it so you can see different parts of it. He will talk about the building itself, the roof. The roof, I think, as you know, I've been before you recently, that is in poor condition. But he goes through the building, explains why he thinks, it's not in compliance with, for people to come in, handicapped accessibility now, space utilization. He'll talk about the mechanical systems. The mechanical systems are beyond their life expectancy. In fact,
they're still going good, but we need to be aware that these are end of life.
Yeah. In fact,
it's because of the age of the building.
I'm going to say something. We bypassed the controls. It's a good thing. What we do is Dave and the crew go in and they're putting in their own controls now, so that we're able to control the temperatures in the room as part of an energy conservation process. The windows they're great 1950s windows, but they're single pane with aluminum. And if you know anything about heat transfer, aluminum's not what you want for heat transfer. So they're windows that were put in when the building was originally constructed. The electrical system is beyond its useful life expectancy. The building is used a lot, and if you look at the gymnasium, that room with some modifications is actually very usable. The floors are relatively good.
It's being used all the time?
It's being used all the time. In fact, we're looking now, do we need to put extra help to clean the floors a little more frequently? But if you go to the outside, there's louvers that used for fresh air. When the building was being fully used, you needed those louvers. Now, those louvers we've gone and we've covered them so that we're trying to save energy. There's a lot of things that we've done to try to, keep the building energy efficient, but, and I give the staff a lot of credit. The bathrooms, I think you'll see in there where all the bathrooms, none of them are handicapped accessible. They all have to be gutted, brought up to code. Exterior-wise, the sidewalks, the infrastructure outside, the sidewalks, the parking areas, things, they all need to.
And Jack, all this just for the council and for those watching, all this major renovation work would have to be if we were gonna go full use on the building.
Right.
Because when these entities were put in, previously, they did not follow zoning, any of the building requirements, the fire marshal. So to really fully use this building, because you do have a lot of people say, well, why aren't you using all the building?
Yes.
Because if you did, then you'd have to upgrade all these bathrooms right away, go ADA compliant,
Lights
put
outside.
in the fire suppression systems.
That's a big cost right there, Mary, yes. Just to be putting in fire protection on the building. Even things like, at one point, many of the buildings designed at that time, you have doors going to the exterior, which are nice, but there's a concrete step there, then there's just this grass. It doesn't mean handicap accessibility, you have to bring that up to code. Even the courtyards, they'd have to be brought up to code. The sprinklers were a big thing there also.
And Jack, kind of addressing what was the old library, for those that know Pettibone. There is a roof leak there.
Yes.
Because of the age of the building, the town council, and the Board of Finance and the town meeting just approved funding for that. So with those funds, that will shore up and repair that, correct?
Correct. In fact, we'll be coming to the purchasing authority this week or next week with our request for that. We'd already obtained prices for repairing that, and we're prepared to come before you to repair. That is the most, that's the worst part of the roof. It needs to be fixed. And the library is being used by Camilla Cupboard, so it's fully used currently.
And that was by executive, right?
Yep. Yeah. I know that was out of our surplus funding. It went through town council, Board of Finance, and then a town meeting. Right now, if everybody had just a chance to quickly look at this, any questions for Jack at this moment? I know, you just saw Katie, and then Mayor.
Go ahead, Bob. Go.
Just a quick one. What's a timeline on this to go from tonight to a finished product? We talking a year, 2 years, 5 years?
Well, when you give us approval, we can give you a better timeline. It'd probably take you a couple years.
Okay.
It's going to take you some time because you're going to have to do some, first of all, you have to develop a program. What are you going to use the building for? Right. This is the conversation I have with the mayor a lot. Right now, you have a school building with school classrooms. And so, it was designed to be a school building. So, but now we're putting in offices, we're putting in different functions. So there'll be some design work, quite a bit of design work that we need to make that space more usable for the processes that you have in place. You've got a nice gymnasium, but now we have a person using a classroom as an office. It's because of the way the building was designed and used, that's all.
Katie?
So I think it's going to take you a couple, let's say, Bob, tomorrow you said, go like hell. It's probably going to take 2 to 2.5 years just to get that done.
To completion.
Yeah.
So, it is a fondness for that building that many people have. I spent quite a few years there myself, from the 2nd grade to the 8th grade. It's a lovely building. It was built as a school, and it still is like a school, and it will stay that way unless the interior, there's all these things that are wrong, and believe me, I'm there enough to know it's hot when it's not supposed to be, and it's freezing when it's not supposed to be. And doors are open when the heat's not, it's just ridiculous. It costs us a mint to run it. But here's the thing, if we don't, is in this cost, did Dean add revamping and reconfiguring inside so that those classrooms, no, okay. Because right now, we have a class that I sat in with 33 other students that has a desk and a table and one person that works there that has that. It's not their fault, that's what they were given.
Yeah.
So I think that in order for this group here, or anyone, to really reasonably think what it's going to cost to fix this building, you have to look at it, like you said, we don't know what we would do with it. But to do anything to the structure and not consider and put into the price what we would do inside, to fix the bathrooms, oh, that's well and good. But why do we have people in classroom-sized spaces? And I think, to talk about the gym is in good shape, yes, it is, and a lot of people use it. The cafeteria is in good shape. Even the kitchen could be in good shape. I mean, there's no stove or anything in there now. But I mean, the building is meant to last forever. That's how that was built. I have to say, the structure of it's good. But again, there's a whole section of it we aren't using since it was decommissioned. So I'm assuming you added that in to have that brought up to code as well.
It's in there, yeah.
Right,
It's in there.
but the interior isn't part of this.
No, when you look at the executive summary, so the cost that Dean is projecting is $25,209,500. It says, note, these costs do not assume any future build-out or program modification to the existing building, as it is near impossible to predict how the building will be utilized moving forward.
So we'd
So
end up
these
fixing it.
improvements simply repair or replace existing
Yes,
components.
I didn't have a chance to read all that far.
Yeah.
But the point is, if we fix the building to bring it to code, to give it heat, and make the security system work and the sprinklers work, all that's great. So we have 3 agencies in there. Let's assume Camilla finds a home that's more applicable for her uses. So we have these 3 agencies, and you have a ton of nonprofits who use that building. I never thought I would, but I gotta tell you, it's the perfect setup for people of nonprofits to be able to work and do what they need to do and help people through there. But now that would be, I'll use the term sinful in a non-religious way, but it would be silly to do all this and not consider what we're going to do inside, because we will still be paying how many thousands of dollars for heating a space that's the size of a classroom from the 50s. So I don't know how much someone would pay for the, because we haven't talked about this, but we have 2 buildings. I think Pettibone has more people who love it than East Street, because all those people are gone now. But I think that's something that we should talk to Dean about, because he can't tell us.
He's going to come
Because
the
we don't know.
second meeting and give us more of an analysis, obviously. I think we need to kind of digest the information, and I also think we need to be cognizant of all the other capital requirements that the town is going to need and how we thread that needle moving forward. We have road work that needs to continue to be done. Bridges, we have 64, correct, Jack?
Well, 64, 65, yeah.
So we have to be cognizant of how we repair those. You also have that's going to be moving forward, and we're building all this together, as we talked about, and I'm sure the school's going to come and tell us on Thursday. So there's going to be 2 roofs in the next couple of years that we're going to have to redo, which is going to be First Northfield and Hill and Plain, probably $5 million apiece for each one of those roofs. And then doing there, we got the assessment for just the parking lots to be repaved. It's about $2.1 million in today's dollars in sidewalks. So there's a lot of capital that we all need to go through and figure out how we're going to thread that needle to get those uses of our buildings and get those uses of our capital to make sure that, we do the proper thing for the whole community at large.
But don't you think that the first step really in anything, I realize we had somebody work on this now and we have the other building over here, but the first step is, if we got all the money to do it, what would we do with this building? What would a buyer want to give us?
As we do with East Street, the next have another public meeting, let
Yes.
the people come in and
Yes.
say what they want to do
Yes.
with these buildings, because it is the people's buildings.
And I think you have to be honest and let them know right now how much it costs to keep it there.
Absolutely.
And how much it could cost if the roof really needed to be fixed over the library area, which you have it fixed nicely now, but, winter, who knows what could happen. It can't go on forever, and I think we all have our own, thoughts on what it could be.
Yep.
But if someone, this is just to throw this out here, so if you just had somebody walk up and say, I really like that building, I like that property, I like where it is, how much do you want for it? Do we have any idea what someone would pay for that?
I have no idea.
I mean, it's not the best economy for that. But just that is an option as well. But we don't know yet, because we still have to talk to the community about this building. We've heard somewhat about East Street. But as you say, we're going to do that next, right?
Yep, and Dean will be here for that.
I'll take bets on which
Yep,
one they are.
Chris?
Just one quick question. I obviously haven't gone through this, but I know on Dean's East Street estimate, there was no costing in there for asbestos remediation. I assume that's the case here as well?
There's no cost in this. There's no cost for hazardous materials in this yet either,
Yep.
Chris.
So Chris, there is no hazardous material cost in there as well.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
And then there's the cost to relocate the agencies. It's not like the nonprofits, we can go back to doing what we were doing, but those 3 agencies would have to have some place to go.
Yeah, where?
Lanesville. No, I mean, those are the things that it's, I hate to say, because we need to have this conversation, obviously, you can't keep putting it off, but really, we need to think about what we would do with the building if no one wanted to buy it, and we know that not a complete thing is 25
I
million.
think as we look at our, I know in speaking with Jack, and we've spoken with the Board of Education, we're trying to do, which this town has never done, is do a complete capital of what it takes to bring the buildings, all of our buildings, because they're all town buildings, bring them to code, what it costs to maintain them, what it costs to provide a safe structures for our employees and our residents, our vehicles, everything, so that we, as a council, can get a handle on what this is going to be in the future. I mean, that's prudent business.
One of the things you make, I'm sorry. One of the things, Katie, we've done in other towns where I've been, is you've got a cost estimate now for doing that. You've got a cost estimate for Easter. What you don't have is a cost estimate for building a building that you want.
Well, that,
And what you may want to do is sit down and have somebody put together a program and the cost of building a building that fits your needs. And that way you could say, okay, maybe that building costs you, and I don't know a number, but say 20 million. So you say, okay, I can build a building that I want and it has what I need for 20, but I've got a $25 million to renovate this. I think that's a piece of information that the council needs.
yes, and I think we've thought about that there is other property owned by the town that could support a building, a very nice building, for those 3 agencies, which work very well together in proximity to each other, and which then leaves us with an albatross, an empty one.
But you may even think, I'm sorry again.
You make a good, I agree with you there, I just want to bring it up here.
Alex?
I've been saying this for a long time, privately, sometimes publicly. I think now's the time to really consider, even during this budget process, bringing in a professional town planner. All night long, all we heard about was everything that's going on. And I don't think there's anybody in this room who's trained properly to do that kind of work. And I would like to see us try to look at what that would cost for us to bring into the budget, because there's too much at stake here. There's no question about the fire department, that's for safety. But all the other buildings, what to do with East Street, what to do with Pettibone, who are we, and what do we want? A professional town planner will get us down the road and take care of that. And I'd like to know, I know, it's not cheap if you're gonna have a good one. I know.
Or
But can we look at it?
maybe there's a firm that we could hire that does do that.
But Alex, wouldn't a planner, I know what planners do, town planners, they do when they come into a town in a situation like this, they would ask the public.
Of course.
So that's what we're going to do.
No,
and I
I
think
would like
that's a good idea, don't you, to start?
But we're doing it.
I agree with you, Jane.
I would like to have the town planner, who's trained to do this, manage that process, because there's so much at stake and so many, and we've been pounding all of these projects for decades. 13 years for Lanesville Fire Department. I mean, there's no plan for any of it. We just put it up when we can. We heard it tonight. There's way too much going on.
It was very different in 2013, unfortunately. You were there.
Yeah. And the other thing
and they
is,
did do a renovation.
Requirements change, mandates, building codes, all of that. You know, you have to
Well,
stand, there's
We know
so
that.
much.
Nobody forecasted the COVID influx of the people coming into this town like we have seen here.
I think, first of all, I think if we're talking about holistic capital needs, we have somebody right there that's done it for 25 years. So when we're talking about capital, we're already in the process of doing that no one ever did. Now, if we're going to talk about where the town envisioned is going to go, per the POCD, which is what we all agreed and signed on to, is what the town's guidebook is, future is, I could see bringing someone in to kind of help us facilitate that. There are firms that do that. We can check those out, bring that back to the council, and see, kind of thoughts with that. I think that's been done in the past before, and kind of take a look at, envisioning where New Milford's going to go, because I do agree with you that we are seeing robust growth here, for sure.
Yeah, and the schools, if all these families, if all those living units turn into children in our schools, and we haven't even talked about central office for the school system and what we said we were going to do for them. So there's just too much.
I think the economy has to change a little, but I don't think there's anything wrong with talking about it. But number one, most important, is this community has to have the opportunity to come as they did for East Street, because Pettibone, you, Alex, you've been here a long time, you know that people have an attachment to that building.
I was there too.
And exactly. So I think they don't all know all of the bells and whistles that don't work and what it costs just to turn the lights on and open the door there. But I think they have a right to know that. They have a right to see this and then tell us what they'd like to do with it.
And then we need to be honest with the public as to the affordability.
Correct.
Like how we can put this in an order, because these things cost not a couple thousand, millions. And then we also have, on top of these $1 million capital items, we have the other capital that we need to do and continue to do operationally each and every year. So that's a fine, as I said before, that's a fine walking balance that we need to do. But I'll put together some information for that, and let's take a look. Absolutely.
During this budget, timing is right there, because
We did that once before. I don't know if you
Yeah,
remember.
yeah.
Mary Jane?
We had them come
Yeah.
into it upstairs.
I agree with what Alex has to say, and what you said. We either need a town planner or we need a consulting firm to come in, because there's just so much on the plate at this point. And we want to do this right and make it the right thing for the community, and be able to afford it. I mean, there's Century Brass, there's Pettibone, there's talk of a sports complex, there's the Lillis building, talked about roads and bridges. I mean, all that stuff is like, it's huge. And we need some professional advice.
Well, now
So-
roads, bridges, all that stuff, I defer to somebody that's been doing
Well,
that
right, true, but,
for
you know.
many years.
Yes, I
And
realize that.
I do think as town planner, we have a very good person down below, which is Laura Regan, who I think has done a phenomenal job. Now, can we help assist in continuing that by maybe bringing in a firm to help us? Absolutely, we can look at that.
Well, she's not officially
But the-
designated as a town planner.
Yes, she
though,
is.
she?
The first
We don't
person.
need, we don't
Yes,
need
she-
town
she
planners.
is.
Right. The
She's
first
certified.
question that someone who is a planner would ask is, well, what do you want to do with this building? This lovely one-floor brick building?
We're not asking about one building. I'm
No,
talking
but
about the
Alex,
whole-
I'm just saying is that they're going to ask, that the town has to have some idea of what they feel their future is. I just said, it's not offices, so would they come and say, oh, this could be this could be that?
So,
I don't think we need it
have
yet.
a number on East Street School yet, is that correct?
we do. That was at the last one.
That's
That
a
was
40,000?
That was 12 million plus the.
Right.
Plus the.
12 million.
Plus that didn't include the,
So I think that
that didn't
Planner or
include the
no
abatements,
planner,
which would probably be another 4.
12
the big
plus
planner is
4.
the taxpayer.
Yep.
Right.
They
That's
want to
right.
make the decision of whether we're going to keep this place, or we're going to keep this place, or we're not going to do DPW, whatever the case may be. And I think what we need to do is get it out to the public as fast as possible, make them aware of the bottom line on both buildings
Yes.
and let them make a decision.
So I
Because they
think
may
You're not
say-
gonna be able, you are not gonna be
Quite frankly,
able.
town planner, you're gonna bring a town planner in, it's gonna cost taxpayers probably $100 and some thousand a year or more. And it's not gonna be somebody who's accountable to the citizens of
Anybody.
Milford. Yeah.
The taxpayers can't afford to
No way.
keep both of these places and still do the
Waste
things
of
that we
money.
want to do in town.
It
So
could
it-
happen that upon looking at these three things and all the millions of dollars, that what they say when we talk about it is, sell them.
So I think,
And then, that's what we'd have to do.
I think next steps, right, is to set a public meeting for the residents to come in.
Well
Yes,
publicized.
we haven't done that
Yep,
one yet.
well publicized,
Yeah.
so maybe we could make that for the second council meeting in,
To set the time,
Yep.
March.
Yep.
That would be the 25th.
because Dean Petroselli would be there that night. I
Right.
asked Jack to
That's
be
good.
there that night as well. We could get input. We're gonna put this on the
6 o'clock?
town webpage, as we did East Street School, so people, the public can see it and look at it as
6
well.
o'clock?
If that's good with everybody
Well,
else.
don't you think?
6:15, I
Pettibone
would
needs
say.
at least an hour?
They can
If we were gonna have-
electronically.
If we were gonna have like we did for East Street,
This is
for
going to hit the
Pettibone,
taxpayers pretty hard.
unless there's a big storm, I can't imagine that I think 6 o'clock. What do you think, Mayor?
That's
You're the
fine.
mayor, not me.
Maybe on the webpage, could it be something on the homepage so they don't
Yeah,
have
I'm
to
gonna
hunt?
ask Pat if we could do like on the banner,
Yeah.
click here to
Yeah.
see
Exactly.
those, and it takes them right to there.
Yeah, because if they don't know where to look,
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
very tough.
Right. And you want
Absolutely.
everybody to look at this and read it, and then
Yep.
also understand that there's East Street.
Yeah, East Street will
Lanesville,
be in there as well.
Roofs.
We're gonna put the Lanesville one up as well.
Okay, so, we're gonna
We
set.
have to suspend the rules.
Yes,
for
I would
that.
have to. I'm just writing this down. Okay, so I'd like to suspend the rules to add an item 11F.
Right, we'd have to do that, right, Randy?
Yes, I'd like to suspend the rules to add item 11F, which would be to approve setting a public meeting to discuss John Pettibone.
To get public input.
Public input.
Second.
Thank you, Chris.
So we have a motion and a second. Mayor?
Is it gonna be just Pettibone or what you were talking about?
We already
You ought to
did,
do both.
right, so we'll do.
You already
Pettibone.
had input on East
Right.
Street. You wanna do it again?
I would say, if you're,
Okay.
if you're going to have.
Together?
public come
Wait,
back here again,
together?
Okay.
I
The
would
two?
have the public come back and let them talk, both sides of the fence.
Okay.
Really? Okay, so
Could you bring them in?
I'll amend and say that we'll still have the public input meeting on March 25th at 6 PM to accept, to listen to input, to receive input on both John Pettibone Community Center building and the Catherine Lillis East Street building.
Do we have a second to that? Tom seconded
Chris,
it?
right?
I second
Okay,
it.
yeah,
Any-
Chris did, yes.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay,
March 25th, 6 PM.
all right.
Do we need to vote to extend the time on this meeting now?
You will shortly.
Oh.
And,
It's 9:30, 9:15.
9:30, okay,
I can't,
got it.
this clock's not right.
Okay,
15 minutes rule. Should
okay.
go fast.
Okay.
Next is discussion on speed camera policy for Route 7. Oh, I'm sorry.
Building,
I went ahead.
MBC.
Yep. Discussion on the Municipal Building Committee Ordinance.
Right. Got that?
As we've all talked about before, kind of talking about updating the Municipal Building Committee Ordinance to make it more in tune with what we think. We saw some of the cracks, I guess, so to speak, in this ordinance when it came to the high school, and what are some of the things we can do to fine tune this Municipal Building Committee ordinance. We had the Municipal Building Committee kind of opine a little bit on their thoughts as to what they could do to change it. I know, Randy, you took a look at some of the stuff. Oh, I'm sorry, Mike? Oh, yeah. On some of the changes Could you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Tom Kapsiak was kind enough to send a proposed revision, which is comprehensive and very detailed, and I read the entire submission, and also sent with it, a guideline as how MBC's municipal building committees can operate. I think that and again, as I told Tom, that's way above my pay grade. I don't make policy determinations. But I think what he submitted has a lot of merit. And I'm wondering whether or not that should be discussed by a committee, including the MBC.
Right.
It's more comprehensive.
Yes.
It's much, much broader.
Yes, it is.
And I think it could probably be used to head off a lot of issues that occur with major
It's
projects.
quite a large
Yeah, you've read it too.
report. Yes.
And it's a lot of good work. And the thing is that right now what we have is we have an ordinance that sticks the committee within a confine, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
This ordinance, I believe, is broad enough that allows the committee to use the talents that they have, because a lot of these people have a lot
Right.
of abilities that
Exactly.
go way beyond me. And in order to use tools and conditions
Mm-hmm.
that they might be able to impose to get a really, really top-flight job.
It's sort of a weighty document as
It
it
is.
is, though, and I don't know that the MBC, well, it's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of ifs, ands, and whereas.
That's why I would suggest, the mayor and I talked about it briefly.
Talk it over?
And you and I talked about it. I think it needs to be reviewed considered by a committee,
Yes,
not just
considered.
let's do this.
Yes, I think so,
Okay.
too.
That's my
So,
recommendation.
I'd like
Again,
to-
that's above my pay grade.
I would like to make a motion that we set up a town council subcommittee comprised of 4 council people, 3 municipal building committee
Well,
people,
I'd be double.
3 municipal building committee, to bring back their recommendations to the town council.
I might
the
recommend, you
municipal
might want to
buildings.
ask, I don't know if Mr. Kapsiak's left,
right.
but you might want to recommend his input.
Absolutely,
We had some good dialogue. and-
absolutely.
He's still here.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
right
I'm
there.
sorry, I didn't know you were still here.
Yeah.
Is there
If he
a
would
motion
serve.
made?
I would like to entertain that motion.
Is there a second to that motion?
So are we adding
Second.
Mr. Kapsiak to the motion?
Yes,
Okay.
So it's 4 council members, 3 MBC, and Mr.
and
Kessler.
Tom, yep.
He just got volunteered.
Is it okay? Okay. I didn't know you were here, Tom. You were in
Okay, this, you have to have
Okay.
enough time for all
Yep.
parties to review.
Absolutely. Mayor?
Moving so quick here, would Mr. Kapsiak be a member of that committee?
Yes, sir.
Is that listed in
And
your,
he said yes.
Yep, that'd be in the motion.
oh, you did, where was I?
I don't know. I think you were sitting here.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on the subcommittee? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? If anybody's interested, please let me know if you'd like to serve on the committee. Obviously, would love your help, and then we'll ask the chair of the Municipal Building Committee his recommendations for that as well. And thank you, Tom. Okay. Next is the discussion on the speed camera policy for Route 7 and Route 202. We had our public hearing tonight on the cameras. And as I told the committee, also have told the public as well, as tonight's public hearing was just to get the input from our residents of New Milford. There was not a vote taken. There was not an action. I do believe, as we've had a major outcry from our residents when it comes to high rates of speed, fatalities, pedestrian strikes, it's up to us as a town council to explore every opportunity, whether it works for New Milford or doesn't work for New Milford. I think we would not be doing our due diligence if we don't bring these up and have honest, robust conversations with our public and with us as a town council. With that being said, Randy, I'd like to ask you to kind of opine on a few things as we're trying to get our delta on this, right? So the state of Connecticut, right, when they approved this ordinance, right, Is that by law?
Yes. The ordinance was part and parcel of a public act that authorized the issuance of the ordinance. This ordinance, as Chief Ceruto and I have discussed, and he's discussed with the town council, this ordinance essentially parrots the Hartford ordinance, and that was the lab ordinance, if you will, the laboratory.
So a public act, for those that are watching and for our town council, is that a law?
Yeah, public act is the early iteration of a statute.
And then there's been quite a conjecture of it being not constitutional.
I have researched that issue. The concern that I had, and I'll be much more frank now, the last time I hadn't had the research done. The concern that I had, as you know, every time that there's action of a government agency, there's a process. And there's a certain process that is due based upon the severity of the action. That's called due process. So if you're given a warning because you're walking your dog on the wrong side of the road, that due process would simply be, don't do that. That's the process that's due for that violation. Under Connecticut law and under federal law, the California cases that came down were much more drastic when they had the camera cases. This case is much different. An infraction is not due the same process that a misdemeanor is. By the same token, and I would call this an administrative action, Chief, if you want. Administrative action is not due the same process that an infraction is. So although I have a concern always about the information being used differently than it was intended to be, and that's always a concern that I have when you have governmental intervention, I do not believe it raises to the level of a concern of constitutional dimension. I think that what happens here is that you had a response by a legislative response to an issue that empowers the localities to make a determination to issue not infractions, violations. Not even a violation, actually. It's actually an administrative fine with an appeal process. The reason that it is not, no further process is due constitutionally because there's no jeopardy that attaches. The only jeopardy that attaches is a fine, and there's a process to appeal that fine. So therefore, as libertarian as I like to think I am, I cannot tell you that this violates a constitutional mandate. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but it doesn't violate a constitutional mandate. Having said that, and I'm wondering this as a matter of legalities. I represent 7 towns, as you know. I'm wondering whether or not we should hire more police officers, actually. And the reason for that is because I don't know that the evidence is the empiricism is evident enough that shows that this saves lives. I read the legislative history. I read any reports that I found, although there's no published OLR report, Office of Legislative Research report, and
Right.
I didn't see the empiricism.
Right, if we could just go back for just a second. So you talked about the fact that because this isn't really a law enforcement ticket, it's a
administrative ticket.
Administrative ticket.
Right.
So, in your opinion, and you can say it or not say it or whatever, but does that break the spirit of the constitutionality of it?
In my view?
Yes.
But
I'm just asking you your view.
well, my opinion is not a legal one right now.
right.
My opinion is a personal one, and I think it does. And the reason I say that is because there's no individual you talk to, although we have a police officer reviewing these, which is different than other states, by the way, which is a big deal. And it doesn't have a provision in this particular statute that authorizes a defense being that it wasn't me. So if you're the owner of the vehicle, you're liable. And now, in New Milford, I'm sure that the officers can make a determination that, listen, this wasn't the owner got the ticket, the owner wasn't driving. They could believe that. But the statute doesn't require that.
I see.
Knowing Chief Ceruto and knowing Lieutenant Grabner and this command staff, they would make sure that that's the fair thing to do.
And Randy, have you when you talk with your fellow town attorneys, I know there are towns, Hartford, I believe there are other towns that have already begun this process. Have they given you any feedback as to what they're experiencing, roadblocks, good, bad, and different?
I've got some off-the-record discussions that I can't identify the individuals, but they're bigger cities, or they're cities, not towns, and the police force, what I'm told, not by the police officers, but by municipal lawyers, is that the police like it. They believe it helps in enforcement. That's anecdotal.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, I spoke with one of the town council members today and said, all I have really here, which I don't like, as you know, you all know me, I like law, is anecdotal. And I think, I love this town, and I think in the best interest of the town, you want to hire more officers, is what you want to do.
Randy, can I ask just a quick question? Sure. You said something about an administrative ticket?
Yes.
Okay, where else would that same thing ever be used?
Oh, I would say in a search warrant, in a violation of a search warrant for an administrative search warrant. That would be something if you refuse to allow entry of an administrative officer, not a police officer, an administrative officer.
But we're not talking about somebody in a car or a moving or
No, those are either infractions or violations.
Okay.
Or misdemeanors.
Okay.
And I do think, as the chief would tell you, Chief, are you here? I think the chief can opine on it a little bit more, but we need to be cognizant as we're looking for solutions, right? We're talking a little bit about this.
It's 9:30.
Oh,
You want to extend?
Actually, it's
Yes.
9:26. Can you do it in 4 minutes?
we could do it. We could do it now.
4 minutes, go.
Can we make it, I was just going to say, real quickly, Chief, obviously, having boots on the ground is really a very efficient way, but with that comes a cost. New officer's going to run you 6 figures right off the gate.
Yes.
So we're already bringing on one new one.
Mayor, we do have one new one coming on and focused on traffic enforcement. There's always going to be new technology evolving, and we're always going to have to consider using these options. But sometimes old-fashioned policing is the best way to address situations, especially in a community like this.
You're going to have one dedicated officer to do this.
That's what the new guy is.
Right.
There's no doubt about it. We're handling what we have now with a new officer coming up, but as we've talked about tonight, the town is growing. Population is going to be on the up, and vehicles are going to be a part of that. So we're going to have issues that we have to deal with in the next 2 or 3 years moving forward.
Chief,
Katie?
I'd like to ask you, and also our town attorney, Randy, could you come up with a succinct pros and cons as a chief of police, and pros and cons law-wise, because I think the fact that the only time administrative tickets are used is if I violated a search warrant or something. That isn't really relatable to what we're talking about. But I'd like to know the pros and cons. And if one of the cons or the pros is that another officer, one more officer could replace what this could do, say so. If not, I'd like you to say that too. And you know where I'm going with that. So would that be acceptable, Laird, to ask for that?
Absolutely.
What do you guys think? Because we could sit here and talk about it all night, but you're the guy that's in the middle of it, and
Yes.
you're the guy that's in the middle of the other side of
How
it.
can we compare something that's not going to cost money to the town, which is camera, to 6 figures of the gate?
Well, that might be one of the pros or the cons.
So you just go
how
on
do you
it.
weigh? Because if the pro is to have a camera, which could be using more hours of the day than an officer, which could, i.e., ergo, save lives or protect, then that's a weighty thing. So I just would like to we can't know what you know.
Okay, so we'll work on that.
Would you?
Back
Just
you on
just the really important items.
Yes.
Thanks.
Mayor?
Yes, Chris?
So, I've got a few things to say about the topic.
Okay, excuse me, I'd like to...
Chris, we're going to extend the meeting real quick.
Sure.
Mayor?
I move to extend the meeting till 45.
9:45, second.
Yes.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Let's go.
Aye.
Thank you. Chris?
So I'd like to, a lot of things have been said, but I'm going to repeat a couple just to make so it's clear to the public that we're only talking speed cameras. We're not talking about red light cameras here at this point anyways.
Correct.
Right.
The penalties are civil in nature, nobody's insurance is going to go up, nobody's getting points on their licenses. It's strictly a fine.
Correct.
And I've spoken with both Attorney DeBella and the chief, and I don't really think there's a real constitutional issue here. There is probable cause, there is due process. There's no real right to privacy on a public road. As Attorney DeBella informed me that the tags, the license plates on your cars are not owned by you, they're owned by the state. They're public property, so I don't think that's an issue. I am worried about if, a rental car, a lease car, how do we deal with those situations? So I don't think that's dealt with in the regulation, but here, most importantly, I looked at the data for the last 3 years on accidents with injuries in New Milford, and speeding ranks number 5 on the list. So I'm not sure, certainly, there's been a few, but, following too close is the number one issue on accidents with injuries. So, this doesn't do anything for that. And I think that's where we talk about, I know the chief has talked about, the 3 prongs: enforcement, engineering, and education. And I think personal responsibility is the 4th. We all agree with that. Cameras might help, but I don't think that's the solution. And maybe the solution is, and I think the other thing is, when I sit in the seat, I have personal opinions on things, but at the end of the day, I'm here to represent the people of New Milford. And I don't get the sense that there's a lot of support in town, although, social media polls and that can be very suspect. But just based on, I don't think there's a lot of support from the public. So I know we have some more discussion to happen, but if we have to do something on Route 7. We have a problem there, no doubt, with the accidents. And maybe additional enforcement to the tune of another 100K or whatever that is the answer. But the people are going to have to understand that that's going to be the cost. I don't think we want to continue doing what we've been doing all along. So I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
When is the implementation of the school zone speed limits?
We're waiting right now for the
'Cause that's going to slow the traffic down.
Yeah, we're waiting for the
quite a bit.
approval of the signs from DOT. They're just approving the design side. Then we'll be able to implement them at the high
That's
school.
2 locations. That's
Yep.
Faith Church and the high
Faith
school.
Church and the high school.
One of the things the chief and I talked about briefly was delaying implementation, taking a look at when we get some data from the other towns and cities, maybe to do it in a more thoughtful way.
I think we should look at all that. Don't be one of the first towns to see what happens with those guys.
I think it's an excellent point. Tonight was somewhat of a listening session. We got to hear the concerns and questions from the community.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of it is the unknown, the questions of what ifs. And I think if we see how other towns and cities deal with this, we might be able to see the challenges they face and learn from that.
One
and
of the
see
things
whether-
that I think people were a little confused on, because several of them said they believed it to be a red light camera. And the way the ordinance is written, it is both. It's A and or B.
It authorizes both.
Correct. It doesn't have to be, just saying that, well, once it's in there, then it's always easier to authorize. So I think that is just a tip of some of the misunderstandings or misconceptions, because we don't have that kind of thing here.
Yeah, and even though they would come for free, I don't want to be the town that jumped on something because it was free. I think the lives in our community and our culture means more to all of us than dollars and cents. And the chief's worked very hard with his officers on having personal relationships with the people in the town. And there's nothing better than getting stopped by a friend, but you can have a conversation. You can't have a conversation with a camera. And I would rather have more of the chief's work out there and officers than the cameras. That's not who we are.
Sal?
I just want to address a few things. One is data. When you collect the data, something like this, we can write in the ordinance that, for instance, not everybody can have the data, it's just certain people. And when the data is being accessed, we want to know who's accessing the data. So that's the privacy issue. Instead of the constitutionality of this thing that I was listening to, which is people have a right to say whatever they want. You go into Stop and Shop, you're in front of the camera. Did anybody object that? Did anybody say that this is not constitutional? No, you go to the Stop and Shop, you go to Big Y, you pay at the thing, and you have a camera. So you have your selfie anytime you go to the bank, you have a camera. You go to the
there's no constitutional deficiency.
Exactly. So I just wanted to say that, right? So none of that, if it's safety, it's safety, right? So we want to have the best of this town for the best of this town. I say, let's try anything you want. All we want, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, we can have this plan B, back it off. What I do see in this country, I'm foreign because I came from a different country, obviously, as you can hear. In the United States, you either become Waterbury or you become New Milford. You have two choices. If we let it slip, we're going to be Waterbury sooner than you think, and no one's going to sell their house in this town. If we go the safer way and we do the right things, we're going to be the town everybody wants to come because it's going to be nice to live. It's going to be a bedroom community as it is right now. So that's what we have to consider. Free, not free, whatever that is. It's just something I have to think 50 years from now. Not 5 months, dollar amounts here and there, just something strategically, like whatever that would be. So if it doesn't cost any money, we'll try that. If people don't want it, then we're not going to try it, but then the offer is on the table. You said no, we said then it's no. But again, we don't have too many choices with what's going on, and Chief Cerruto, when he presented the slides, what struck me was that most of the stops were the people not from this town, from outside of the town. So guess what? Those people have no stake in the well-being of this town. They don't have the kids going to school here. They don't have the houses. They don't have the grandmas walking or anything like this. That's what I'm afraid of. I'm not afraid of the people that, everybody that does stupid things, but we all meet each other. But the people that come here from the outside, how to enforce. So they're not going to mess up stuff that we have already because they don't have any stake. We do. That's the only thing that I have. If it takes the camera, so be it. If it doesn't take the camera, so be it. But one way or the other, we don't have to. We cannot be a Waterbury tomorrow or 50 years from now. That's much I can tell you.
Chief, one last question. Now shut up. So this isn't not going to influence anybody's insurance, et cetera. Here's a question. So will the record of my getting an administrative ticket for going 15 miles over the speed limit, will that follow me? Will you have that? Does that stay somewhere in the records, like everything?
So it's a good question. The law does address limitations on how long we can retain information. It would be retained for 30 days after the case was closed, the payment was received.
And then wiped clean.
And then it would
So
have
it would
to be.
never come up?
No, and even so much as the video would have to be, deleted.
I see. Because I think that's a big concern for some people is that
That's
it's...
a constitutional issue.
Yes, exactly. So for 30 days, it's alive and then it's gone. So you wouldn't know if 45 days later I did it again, unless the officer or somebody came along.
Right. There would be a notation that it was a subsequent offense, so there would be something.
How would you know?
There would be something within the system.
Okay, well, there you go.
Right.
So if you would know in 45 days what I did on 45 days prior, then it doesn't go away.
The video's gone. The video.
But yeah, but the fact that I created this administrative infraction, how many could I have? See, well, I guess, but it's going to follow me, and if it's only administrative, how do you act on that? I'm a serial speeder.
Well, don't forget, one of the reasons they want to do this is they want to
I'm not really, I don't want
modify
anybody to think
behavior. So there's gonna have to be a consequence to a subsequent and
Oh,
tertiary.
Right.
Violated you know, who got so many, you know, whatevers,
Right.
then you'd be in touch with them.
But that's another technique.
Something to think about that I'm sure someone else has thought about, not just me.
All right.
So maybe we need more police officers.
And
That
I'm
would be
not a
my,
serious speeder.
that would be my thought.
I think the deterrent is an actual officer or the trailer with the flashing lights
The trailer.
speeding. I'm going to go down Route 7 at 80 miles an hour, and I'm going to get a $50 ticket, is what it boils down to, administrative ticket, while an officer out there is going to put me in jail. That's the deterrent.
Point, yeah.
Yeah, that's not a good alternative to one to the other, is it?
The police chief said we're gonna need more officers, so why don't we just do that?
Mr. Mayor?
Yep. Doug?
Just real quick, I want to give my thoughts on it. Thanks to Police Chief and Randy. My only issue is that the consequences here just seem like they're financial, and there's no really any long standing. Like Katie mentioned, there's no points against it. You don't get arrested and stuff like that. So it's just more of a financial thing. And I think it'd be tough for people to be afraid, for lack of another word, of doing it repeatedly. I mean, if it's $25, okay, so I got a $25 ticket. It's not going against my license. It's not going to up my insurance. And so, I'll let Dad pay for it. I'll pay for it and do it again. I just, it's so vague in the enforcement. I mean, we still have people going through buses that are stopped where you can get a $500 fine and get points on your license. So
Good point.
I don't know. I'm unsure about the whole process. That's all. That's my thought.
I'd rather have the officer that's watching the movie out on the street.
We can combine the things. Maybe.
I think let's hear what the other towns are saying.
Yes.
And then later on, at some
thoughts
point, we'll
still.
bring it back to the council and review it.
Sounds good.
And I still would like both of you, just a few, it'd be nice. You think beyond
we'll
where
do our
we
best.
are.
Do we,
Okay, let's all go really fast.
we gotta do the public hearing real quick.
I'm sorry.
The public hearing?
What about?
Do we add it to the agenda? Do we have to make the motion?
I did. Wait.
You
Yes,
didn't?
I did, because remember Randy asked. Okay, so I suspended.
To add it, now you have to make the motion.
Now you have to make.
Right,
the
we never
motion.
voted on it.
We never voted on we voted to add it.
No, we have to move the mo-
So we're adding something, I know.
Yes, okay, I just had, I had to think through. Okay, so what I'd like to do is to
Make the motion.
make a motion, Stephanie, before we leave. I'd like to move that we set a public input session for March 20.
Public meeting.
You said input before.
Yeah, for the input of the public.
Oh, I see, okay. Public input meeting for March 25th at 6 PM in the E. Paul Martin Room to hear input on both the John Pettibone and the East Street buildings from our public, what they'd like to do with them. Thank you.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Thank you.
Motion to adjourn, let's go.
Second. All those in favor? Thank you, everybody.
Aye.
Thank you.